Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, and I'm joined today by the people who are always here and not by the people who are never here. You know who I'm talking about. It is Alexys Moreno and David Francisco who are back with me today, and we're going to talk about all things Golden Globes and awards season here on Red Spotlight number 470. This show being, of course, the place that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more, and of course, Golden Globes, which are often dubbed Hollywood's biggest night. Was it? Well, we'll get into it right here. And it's all the winners, all of the drama, all of the controversy, and of course, where this season is going. So, there's a lot to say. There's like a lot to say as far as like how the ceremony went, how it was produced, how it was hosted, who won, who lost, where those inevitable winners and losers are heading on their way to the Oscars. Because recall, with award season, the Golden Globes is the first televised spot. Then we go to the Critics' Choice, then the Screen Actors Guild, then the Directors Guild, Producers Guild, and then finally BAFTA before we get to the Oscars. Those are all, well, actually two of those may not be televised, but most of those are. But those are the major industry awards that make up awards season. So look, I feel like before we even talk about how the night went, it's kind of important to talk about what these things even are, which the Globes are kind of like an enigma to a lot of people. And also the controversy has been kind of an enigma to a lot of people. These last couple of years, they've been struggling a lot with they've been actually like, well, I guess they were canceled, but then that didn't stick because ultimately, this is the thing. I always thought it was hilarious to me how people thought that they were going to cancel the Golden Globes. Like, sure, are the stars and the producers really going to let go an opportunity for more, I don't know, screen time to win awards and then also boost up their chances for future awards? It's like, that was never going to happen, especially with a show like these, which have been around for, as of right now, 81 years. It's a long time. It's kind of like, I feel like it's like the second oldest show behind the Oscars as far as like movies are concerned. And also to keep in mind that they don't just give out prizes for movies, but then also for TV as well. But why was this whole thing a thing in the first place? Why was there a scandal that inevitably ended up pulling the show off the air for a whole year? Of course, that happened to be the year that West Side Story came out, where Rachel Zegler won Best Actress and West Side Story won Best Picture Comedy Musical. But was I around to see it? I was, but nobody saw it, so it didn't happen. Of course, that happens to be my luck as usual. Anyway, but the real drama that caused that to happen was because scandal broke out on top of a mountain of other scandals. The reality is these people that were formerly known as the HFPA, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, were a group of 90 journalists from all over the world, but they were very clubby. I've also heard that when it came to screenings, they would all have to be together to see it, and they would all talk to each other to see how they were going to vote. More so than any other body, as far as awards are concerned, these people were very cliquey, and they would talk to each other about how they were going to spread the wealth around, which is why this show, for most of its existence, has been known as the one show to always spread the wealth around to different kinds of winners and not just have these huge sweeps for one or two or three of them. But they were very proud, honestly, of how blatant they were in how basically their vote could be bought off. And they were also very overt in inviting certain people by way of nomination just so they can say they were at their awards show. One of the more infamous moments in this show's history, back in 2010 or 11, I believe, Ricky Gervais was actually hosting that year, and the year after, as a matter of fact. But when they nominated the Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie movie, The Tourist, for, I guess, best something or whatever, They came there, but it got terrible reviews. Nobody liked it. Less people saw it, I believe. And of course, Gervais made a joke about like why they were even invited in the room. Well, we all know why they were, because they wanted to have pictures with, Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. And, here's where I come from. If we're going to pretend that the Globes were the only people in Hollywood that acted that way, that would be a fucking lie. The Oscars do that. How do I know they do that? Because why did Everything Everywhere All at Once? Why did Coda and why did Parasite win Best Picture the last couple of years? And I talked to this with Peter, our own Peter Martinez here over the weekend, about what do those three victories have in common? Who was in the awards space was yes.
You froze for a second.
I am so. Did I freeze, Alexis?
On
my end.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
fine.
mean to.
No, I mean, it's not your fault or anything, but like it was right when you mentioned Peter that you talked to over the weekend, and
our own Peter Martinez. Yes, we're having a discussion about what those three victories have in common: Coda, Everything Everywhere, and Parasite. Everybody in the Hollywood space, the voter space, they just wanted to have their picture with these casts, okay? Let's not pretend that merit or quality has ever been a thing that actually goes into why something wins. If, by the way, Parasite and Everything Everywhere are among the best winners we've had. But I think it was just dumb luck that it ended up being that way. It wasn't because, they all agreed with us that they were the best of the best. It just so happened that they were the talk of the town. The wind was blowing at their back. And guess what? Every voter wanted to have a selfie with those casts, with the Coda family, the Everything Everywhere family, the Parasite family. The Actors Branch in particular pushed all three of those films across the finish line. And Peter himself said that it kind of sullies those victories a little bit because we know the ultimate reason for why they won. But that's all awards. So to me, I've always found it kind of weird that the Globes were singled out as like the worst of the worst. And I just feel like I always had respect for them for when they would do that because, hey, at least they wear their corruption on their sleeve. Unlike these other people who would have you think there's all this esteem, there's all this like grandiosity that's, with the name of, we're the Oscars or the Emmys. And it's like, you're all full of crap. I mean, let's just be real. And we're just lucky that every now and then you throw us wins that we happen to like. That's ultimately where I come down on it. But then there's the other scandal, which is them not having a single Black person in their membership, which was bad. How are you an international group and you not have a single Black member in your body? Which, granted, of course, there are not that many of you, or there were 90 or so of you, but still, that was a very bad look. This scandal broke out during COVID when we had nothing to do but just be on our phones all the time and like just kick around whose name was brought up. Tom Cruise did this big show of like sending back his Golden Globes because he didn't want them anymore because of this scandal particularly. NBC canceled them that week saying that they weren't going to have them on broadcast for that year, which is why they had to go back and make changes to obviously their membership. So it was a lot of drama and it kind of looked like they were dead in the water. They came back last year to very low ratings. But the reason why they came back to low ratings is the same reason why all award shows have low ratings. They came back on a Tuesday instead of the usual. Who watches an award show on a Tuesday? You put them on Sunday where people are home, not on a Tuesday. So that's what happened. They were so desperate to clean up their image that they invited Gerard Carmichael to be the host that year. And I'm going to save that for later because I think there's a whole discussion of hosts and what needs to stop happening at these shows that we need to have going on later in the podcast. But the whole thing of it is there have been a lot of particular people online who piss me off in this space because they celebrate the Oscars and all the other people, but the Globes are like these people who we can't like ever like acknowledge. And yet the funny thing is, despite the disastrous show that they had, and we're going to discuss, don't worry, in full length and detail, the nominees this year were very, very good. The nominees were outstanding, actually. And in comparison to other groups, I've been seeing a lot of these naysayers, a lot of these people who often laugh at the Globe and say, oh, the Globes are going to Globe, actually praising the Globes this year because they seem to be the body that actually picked the best nominees. Because if you go back and look at some of the, the Critics' Choice, the Critics' Choice were criticized for being very stale and bland. The SAG nominations that came out just this week, as a matter of fact, were very just like, there are no international picks whatsoever. So every group has had their ups and downs with nominees. But the Globes, I feel, with their nominations, they were very inspired. There's actually a movie that I'm looking forward to watching that I haven't seen many people talk about, but it's supposed to be kind of like a rom-com romance story. Not a rom-com, a romance story. Fallen Leaves. Alma Poisty, I believe, was the person that they nominated for Best Actress. And that's like, nobody else nominated her. They also nominated performances by Nicolas Cage in Dream Scenario. They nominated Joaquin Phoenix in Beau is Afraid. Jennifer Lawrence in No Hard Feelings. Like, there were very good nominees and well-rounded and a lot of variety. And no one else, well, and granted, of course, the Globes have more categories, have more of a variety of categories, but it still needs to be made, clear here that as far as nominees are concerned, the Globes did a really good job. And so this whole last couple of months has been even harder for them because the ratings were so low last year. NBC basically said, you're done. We're not going to air you anymore. You can go find a new home. So they were trying to find a new home. And then Puck News had this article that basically said that everybody said no to them. All the major networks, the cable networks, Netflix. It got so bad at one point in that article, it mentioned that the Globes were rejected by Roku TV. So I don't even know what they did. Honestly, I don't know what they did to get the people who run CBS, who, mind you, is the biggest television network in America. I don't know what they did to say to them, please put us on your network. And for whatever reason, they were able to be put on network TV, which is where I believe they ultimately should be. It should be a live TV event. And I was happy to see that. And that was a major success story. The nominees in and of itself was another major success story. So the hope was, because of how much work, and I didn't even mention the 90 or so journalists that had no black people in it, that was gotten rid of. They changed from a group of 90 people. Some were let go. I think most were retained, but most of the 90 people stayed. Some were let go, but they changed from 90 people to 300 people, from more from international territories. Now, the difference with these versus SAG and PGA and the Oscars is that they're not industry voters. They're journalists. They're international journalists who write reviews. So I guess you could say critics, but they're not considered critics the way that the Critics' Choice are, or the regional critics. So the hope was that because they did so much work to get themselves put on the air and get some new voters and have some great nominees, that it would just be smooth sailing from here on out. But at the last minute, I think this is what happened. I think they were so concerned with just finding a place to exist, they kind of didn't really put that, or didn't have the time, mind you, to have really that many options when it came to picking the person who would, in a way, be the face of this broadcast, the person who would host the show, which is very important for award shows. Now, I understand that award shows are not everybody's thing, and I understand there's a lot of disagreement about, like, should award shows from now on have no host? Should they just put the awards on there? And look, obviously, I'm a huge fan of award shows. We talk a lot about them, and over the years, we've had some good, some not so good. some very bad. And I feel like here was the other hope, is the Oscars these last 10 years have fallen off hard. And I'm not talking about the ratings. I'm talking about the quality of their shows. You know, lest we forget that the Globes were somehow the only people that had controversy. Every year the Oscars come on, there's a controversy. There's like a big theme. And I'm not even saying what happens in the show itself, just surrounding it. Before we even get to the show, there's decisions that are made that are like, you know, Oscar ballots come out, secret ballots come out, and there's a lot of like anger and drama and disasters that have happened. They switched Best Actor and Best Picture and give it to an absent Anthony Hopkins over a dead Chadwick Boseman. Should we even talk about the whole La La Land Moonlight snafu, which I will never get over? I mean, never get over. And that's not even, to me, the biggest fuck up was the idea that the night's biggest winners were Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody. So it's like, if we want to talk about fuck ups and disasters, hey, I think the Oscars have been giving us a lot in that department these last couple of years. I didn't even touch the whole thing of Kevin Hart being hired and then fired before even getting to the stage, which led to the show having no host for like 2 or 3 years.
I don't remember that.
There's so much has happened.
About that.
So much has happened. It's ridiculous. So but more to the point, in the last 10 years, more often than not, the Globes have put on an amazing show, and that goes on for a lot of reasons. I think on the whole, why have the comedic monologues been funnier than the Oscars? Well, for one, to me, there's no competition. I think the two biggest hosts that have actually made their presence known, remembered, and made their broadcasts, I feel, just like a legendary success in different ways, but the humor has some carryover. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Ricky Gervais, their monologues put together, and I think Tina and Amy hosted 4 times, and Ricky did 5 times, which is a whole 9 years. That's a lot of like monologues. Them together, all of their shows, I feel, were a success. They're, to me, are the peak of what this show should be, which is just a good old fun time. I believe it was it Warren Beatty? I heard Tom O'Neill, the editor-in-chief of Gold Derby, say that he was told by Warren Beatty that the Oscars are business, but the Globes are fun. And that's the truth of it, though. The Globes, to me, have always been more fun because you're in a smaller setting. They're all drinking. They're getting drunk. You have the camera up close and personal. They're sitting at tables, so it's much more relaxed and comfortable. And it just feels like a much more Hollywood experience, too. I've always felt that the production value was a little bit higher. In ways, the show also moved a lot faster because you didn't have to worry about cutting to a musical performance for the 5 nominated songs of the night, or these long-winded bits like Ellen DeGeneres buying pizza for everybody, or Jimmy Kimmel buying pizza. They did the same bit in different years. Or even Jimmy Kimmel inviting random people to see celebrities, or Ellen DeGeneres having a selfie with all those things were a complete waste of time and things that shouldn't really happen any longer at award shows, but they're going to continue to do that until that generation dies out because they think that that's humorous and that's what's worth it. And sometimes they feel that's more valuable than airing some of the nominees. Remember that one year where they cut 8 categories from the telecast, and you know how, because they wanted to save time. But you know how long their show was? It was the longest ever. It was 3 minutes and 45 minutes long. Now, granted, Will Smith kind of fucked them up on that part. I mean, he went on for 10 minutes, I think, with his Best Actor speech, which was surreal, even just looking back at that whole situation. Right. As well. So much happens at these shows. David, go ahead.
You said 3 minutes and 45 minutes.
Oh, sorry. 3 hours. Thank you for, I did not catch that at all. I'm sorry, but thank you for correcting me. 3 hours and 45 minutes. Almost 4 hours long. That was the year they cut out 8 categories to save time.
That was so. I remember that. That one was really bad, because they cut out like the ones that people think that don't matter.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I tell you, it's just mired in controversy all the time. But
me, like us, like growing up, we didn't start watching them until I want to say like 2007, 2008. But like my whole family would always be like, "Oh, we like the Golden Globes better." And like whenever my dad like talks about award shows and stuff, he always goes back to the Golden Globes and all the speeches, the hosts.
The one
he always talks about Robin Williams. And
the one video he always shows us was like, I can't remember who the winner was, but it was like some Best Actress award.
She was in the bathroom, wasn't she?
She was in the bathroom, yeah. And the dude like was supposed to hand her the award. He had no idea what to do, and then Robin Williams
he pulled a Kanye, but good.
Yeah, pulled a Kanye, but good.
Yeah.
He came up and like just started making the crowd laugh and everything. And then once the actress finally showed up, he had like a towel on his arm, just goes like, "Here you go," because chances are she didn't have time to like dry her hands or something.
Yeah. I feel a little bit validated for you guys to like, because I think you've always vibed with me about the whole Globe situation, because I've always felt, for me, as a telecast, they've just been better. They've done so many things better. And I'll also say this too, even though a lot of critics who are tightly knit in that whole town and everything, they'll crucify me for saying this, but I often feel a lot of the times they've got better winners too at the Globes and the Oscars.
Honestly, I mean, like in the one that we're about to talk about, I'm like kind of really happy with the outcome of the winners, not the whole show. I feel like we were all very like surprised at what was happening.
Yes.
In the best way.
Yes. And please, for those of you who are watching, listening, we will get to the winners. Don't worry. That's the whole second half of this 5-hour podcast. Don't worry. Kidding. Although I don't even know how long.
3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. This 3-minute podcast. Yeah, I agree completely with that sentiment. They've just, to me, and always, because they're the first major award show of the year, I've always looked forward to them. Oftentimes in these recent years, because I've become more and more obsessed with films and award season, the Globes are the ones who I look forward to the most. And I think there's also something special about them beginning the year. They set the tone, last year. And again, a lot of people want to make the argument that they don't matter. Okay, yes, they don't. None of those people have any kind of carryover with the other groups. Okay, sure. But a lot of the times the Globes do end up getting correctly the people who end up winning the Oscars. So there's that. But also, they changed the game just by happening. Nobody was talking about Angela Bassett at all coming close to a victory until she won something at the Golden Globes just last year for Wakanda Forever. Now, that didn't ultimately pan out. But then again, I have to say this. I think it doesn't matter if they were predictive or not. Like, the reason why I have such a disdain for the Critics' Choice, which aired this week apparently on the CW. Who's going to watch that? Who watches the CW? But I'll watch it just to see what Chelsea Handler has to say about Joe Coy, since apparently they dated. And it's funny to me how...
Is she hosting?
She's hosting, yes.
That is so funny. They dated for like a good while.
Yes. In the old Chelsea Lately days.
I need to see that.
Yeah. I'm hoping she brings... I hope she brings it up, ultimately, I think Chelsea Handler is as far as comedians are concerned, I wouldn't say she's the funniest, but I like her. She's a really good presence. And I feel like she would have been a better...
I just feel she's so unhinged in the most calming way. And I don't know how she does it.
I know. So, but I don't know. I guess she has a contract with the Critics' Choice for whatever reason. But if the
Interesting.
Globes
That
were
is so
smart, they would.
funny.
I know. I know. How that happened, I don't know. I guess there is such a thing as divine intervention, right? Because who else could really have made this up?
I would be so. I mean, I'm sure he's embarrassed, but I would be so scared if I was Joe Coy.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be okay. I would be far more worried if somehow the Globes invited Ricky Gervais to come back next year, because then he for sure would make a joke
That is so
about this
funny.
thing. I know.
I hope
So,
they do.
but the reason why I don't like the Critics' Choice is because they keep their voting open until after the Globes have aired, so they can see who won and either rubber stamp the people who won or course correct and change it. Yes, I'm not kidding you. The Critics'
No,
Choice,
why?
yes, exactly. So they don't even have the spine to stand up on their own convictions. They wait for the Globes to go first, see who they picked, and then turn in their ballots after the fact. There's that whole situation. And don't even get me started, because for years and years, we've teared into how atrocious and honestly kind of disgusting a lot of the people who vote at the Academy Awards are. Every year, Variety and Hollywood Reporter release their secret ballots, and a lot of the things that they say, I mean, I'll give you an example. One Oscar voter said that she refused to vote for Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes because, oh, I can't be seen supporting the Pope.
Okay.
This isn't a
Good
joke.
for you.
This isn't a joke. This is 100% real. 100% real. And that's just what I mean. The one that always made me laugh was the one voter that said that, I like Chadwick Boseman, but he's dead. I want to vote for somebody who's alive. And they say shit like this all the time. There were a lot of ballots that came out that were saying that Michelle Williams's performance in The Fabelmans was, I don't know if they were saying it was anti-Semitic, but it was just like a caricature or something. There was even a lot of voters, some voters that were like laughing at it, saying like, of course, a white person's like trauma would be a divorce. Yeah,
So bad.
it is bad. It is like, so again,
That's so mean.
that's who they are. Look, they do this a lot. This is the same people who like, they pride themselves on, they denied Eddie Murphy an Academy Award because Norbit came out and Norbit existed. Eddie Murphy was up for an award for supporting actor for Dreamgirls. He was going to win. He was the frontrunner. Norbit came out and they were like, we can't be seen with him. But it's Eddie Murphy. He's a legend. It doesn't matter if he had like a Norbit situation, like whatever. Like he deserved to win probably. And then I didn't even know this, but I heard one of the Oscarologists say that Eddie Murphy was so pissed off he walked away. He walked out of the room when that happened. When he lost.
Didn't director, what was it? The director of Black Klansman? He walked out when he lost him.
No, he walked out when Green Book won, which is I want to applaud that, because that was not the appropriate winner. But Spike Lee won that night. He won for screenplay. And of course Spike Lee would. Of course he would do that. But it's just like, but it was also just kind of ridiculous because that movie had a whole bunch of scandals too. Like the director of that movie, Green Book, exposed his genitalia in several movie sets, and he won an Academy Award that night. Also, do we all forget the year that Roman Polanski won Best Picture for The Pianist, and everybody in the room gave him a standing ovation? Or when just a lot of shit happens at the Oscars. Or when Brokeback Mountain lost to Crash, because Brokeback Mountain was like winning everything. I don't know. I've never seen it. And of course, one of the bigger ones, one of the more influential ones, The Dark Knight being snubbed, which inevitably left them needing to change a lot of the rules for the number of nominees they include in Best Picture. So yeah, but going back to the Globes though, I think what makes them fun is so many kooky and wacky moments happen. I mean, not just in the monologues themselves and the jokes, but everybody is having such a really good time, and even the presenters let loose. And then if they go on the stage late enough, they've had enough. This is one year, I think Emma Thompson, this was the year she was nominated for Saving Mr. Banks. She went up there. She was drunk. She even took off her heels while she was on the stage because she couldn't take it. That was like, and then she was burping also a little bit because she was like that hammered. But that's the kind of stuff that makes the Globe so special in the first place, and it makes them feel like real people.
There was one of the people that played the Queen in The Crown. She was also drunk.
Is it Olivia Colman?
Yeah. When she won like the last time. No, I think it was like a time before that, and she was like freaking out.
Her speech is always the best. So
yeah, no, she gives amazing speeches. Olivia Colman. It goes to show you should give her an award anytime she is like on screen. Even in a Wonka, why not? She was there. She did. But yeah, it's always been like a really fun show to watch. And as I mentioned, as far as like, to me, they have been the blueprint as to how to do award shows, but they've done something kind of revolutionary as opposed to the other shows. And they had the novel idea of hiring people who are actually funny. Sorry, not sorry. And look, even the Globes themselves, some years, especially in recent years, they fumbled the ball. I mean, I remember I've been watching the Globes for over 10 years now. There have been some hosts that have not been very memorable. They brought Seth Meyers. I don't dislike Seth Meyers, but he ain't the kind of person for this show. They brought in Jimmy Fallon one time. That was a disaster too. Nobody laughed at that either. That was not great either, but nobody remembers it because Jimmy Fallon's Jimmy Fallon. He's kind of a joke himself in this, I guess, by today's standards. They even had one year where they paired Andy Samberg with Sandra Oh. It was okay. Not very memorable. You even forgot that even happened. That's how forgettable.
Yeah.
These are very different years that this happened.
Didn't Anne Hathaway host the Oscars one time?
With James Franco, yeah. Yeah. It was even, I think, one of the years that Tina and Amy hosted, I think Tina made the joke of like, she was praising her performance, Hathaway's performance in Les Mis, saying that I've never seen anybody so abandoned since you hosted with James Franco at the Oscars.
But you know what? Good for Anne Hathaway, because I don't think a lot of actors have done that, right?
No, that was the last. That was the last time actors even put themselves in that position.
I don't care if it may have been the worst, but I would be flaunting that I hosted the Oscars.
The same way that Halle Berry flaunted her winning the Razzie for Catwoman and gave a whole acceptance speech back when the Razzies were fun. Just own it, you know? That way. That's it's just, this is all fun, meaningless nonsense anyway. Like, why not just have fun with it, not be so freaking serious about it? But like, going more to the point, Tina and Amy and Ricky, I feel like were truly gifts to the lexicon of like award shows. Like, to me, there's hardly a miss in any of their like monologues, and those are monologues that I revisit every year when the Globes come back around. And I needed it more this year than any other year because of how bad these last 2 years were in particular. Yeah. So this whole week I've been like watching all those monologues, Ricky and Tina and Amy, and goodness, like some of the Ricky jokes over the years have been. I mean, he made an Epstein joke, he made a Harvey Weinstein joke about. There was this joke about like Sandra Bullock and Bird Box and people having to move around with like pretending they don't see anything, and he said sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein, which is something that all of you did. Even he made like a Jeffrey Epstein killing himself joke, which is like, shut up, I know he was your friend, I don't care. But those are funny though.
That's so funny.
That's the thing. It's like, if you're funny, at least we can excuse it. You know, it's like not that I feel like we need to limit comedy. I've never been one of those people. I'm also not one of those people who are like against the woke. Like, of course, I'm not one of them. I mean, I bitch about the anti-woke people every week on this show, so don't even get me lumped in with that. But it's just like, those were funny jokes. I mean, we're not. I
guess like the difference is like the joke is towards not
them.
Right? Yes.
Yes, it's them at their. That was that first year that Apple got into streaming shows, and then reminded about all the sweatshops they run in China as a company. And then made the joke of like, yeah, you say you're woke, but if ISIS started a streaming service, you'd all sign up, wouldn't you? Like, you see how these jokes still hit because they're still relevant. Like, I'm sorry, you're never gonna do any better than Ricky Gervais for me and my sense of humor. I know a lot of people hate him and his whole persona. I don't care. The man has always been funny, especially at these settings. I mean, he made like a Mel Gibson joke out when the whole thing. But I feel like what always made the Globe successful and Tina and Amy's monologue successful was because their monologues were not solely about the movies, but they did their best to touch on the biggest Hollywood stories that came out of that given year. So throughout the years, I watched all these monologues. They touched on the Justin Bieber pregnancy thing that happened. They touched on Kim Kardashian being married to that guy for like 40 some days. They touched on Charlie Sheen blowing up his career and getting fired from 2.5 Men.
There's this I don't even know what award show it was. I don't even know if it was. I think it was the Golden Globes because both of them were on stage. But every time I see a video of that, I never skip it. I watch it till the end, and it's them presenting like a lifetime award to George Clooney, and they're giving all these praises to his wife about like all the work that she's done, and then they go, and tonight her husband is getting an award.
That's Tina Fey.
That's love Tina Fey's
one. There was another joke of at Clooney's expense. I think it was the year before or after, where he was in the movie Gravity, and I think it was Amy that said another movie about how George Clooney would rather float away and die than be with another woman his own age. You see how these jokes just cut deep. But yeah, they touched on the controversy of streaming, and also there was I think for 2 or 3 years in a row, Ricky was like laughing at NBC for how low ratings they had. I think he called himself. I think the joke was like Britain's #1 comedian with the world's second largest award show, and on America's third biggest network. Sorry, fourth.
Like the fact that there was no joke about everything that happened with the strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
would you even know they happened this year? What did happen, right? Like that. So before we get to that whole situation, the point is, I feel ultimately, if you want to know what the Globes are about, go look at Gervais and Poehler and Fey and look at what they did. And again, none of those jokes, or I should say, for all of those years that Tina, Amy, and Ricky were on for their seasons, the Oscars would have hosts, and not once would their jokes come close to having the bite. And I think what also made them work was it wasn't just funny, but they were in relation to the people who were in the room. They were in relation to the awards themselves, the awards culture themselves, the people who are watching at home for various reasons. Also, Joan Rivers passed away in the last 10 years, and I also feel like that's kind of contributed to the downfall of award season as well, because she also was an amazing insult comic, one of the best ever. And her absence has been felt, at least for me. And then also the whole fashion police thing blew up as well. So that's a whole separate awards culture that died out years ago because of another controversy that I'm not even going to touch. The less said about that, the better. But yeah, you can't really compare anything to what the Oscars have done, because I think, to me, everything that's funny about the Oscars was completely an accident. It
Yeah.
was completely like all those fuck ups that I told you about. Will Smith, Chadwick Boseman, La La Land wasn't even funny. But the other ones were, and not to me. That was, I wanted to go on a murder spree at that point. Yeah. No. But they were all a complete accident. And so ultimately, and then we get to Gerard Carmichael last year. And that was, look, I think a lot of people I've seen who were like defending him have kind of like, okay, well, maybe that was way out of his league and he's not the best. His personality is not the best for what the Globes required. I think what these last 2 years hosts have in common is that neither of them were appropriate for this setting and for the people who inhabit this space for very different reasons. Gerard Carmichael last year was brought in large part because he was black. And I can say that because the Globes admitted this themselves, because they needed they needed more positive PR. This comes after the fact that they were canceled because they didn't have a black member. So of course they brought him on, and the Globes are not above, and never have been, being ridiculed. Ricky Gervais did that every year, and they did it amazingly, as did Amy Poehler. I mean, Ricky Gervais called the Hollywood Foreign Press vegetables one year. He also called them racist one year as well. It's like they're old, a lot of different things. That's not what happened. The problem was that Gerard Carmichael, in my view, was not attempting a traditional comedic monologue. He wasn't attempting anything comedic in the least. It felt like he was there giving a TED talk more than anything. That's the worst audience for a TED talk. That's the worst venue for a TED talk, if anything. And look, I'm not even saying that they shouldn't, the Globes themselves didn't deserve the ridicule. Of course they did. It's awful it didn't have a single black person and all the other things. But this is supposed to be a fun show. And he really got things off in a bad way last year. There was even a moment where he sat down, he was looking down as he was walking. A lot of the times he would rarely make eye contact with any of the people. It was one of the most awkward experiences I've ever seen, ever, period, but also at an award show. And I think all of us were in agreement when that happened in real time. Amazingly, somehow the show recovered dramatically after he basically left and we got to the winners. Because I feel like, to me, last year's was one of my favorites for a reason. All the winners were like not only great picks, but their speeches in particular were very memorable. I still remember, Mike White winning for the White Lotus, Jennifer Coolidge, even the TV winners I got into, like Ryan Murphy getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. That was a great speech. Winners.
They didn't do one this year, huh?
They
They
didn't do it because they needed space to fill in their stand-up comedy award and their box office achievement award. Doesn't that make you even angrier now? They didn't do it this year because they didn't have the time to fill. Instead, they replaced it with... Yes, go ahead, David.
I don't mind the stand-up comedy award one. I think that was pretty cool.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that they exist. What I mind is how much time they take up. That's the problem. We didn't need to see like fucking a minute and a half long clip of all the nominees. And there were like 8 nominees in each of those categories.
Yeah.
That was the problem. And they showed clips for those categories when they didn't give us any clips of the actual acting nominees.
Yeah.
That was a bad decision. And they just like... And I know why they did it was because, well, these are our 2 new categories. We want to give them a big spotlight, but it did not land well. And it took way too long. And you sacrificed the TV and the movie Lifetime Achievement Awards for this?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very bad. Also, last year...
That's not the Carol Burnett.
The Carol Burnett. Is
that one?
The TV one is the Carol Burnett Award, and the movie one is Cecil B. DeMille Award. Yeah. They didn't do it this year because they needed to show off new categories, which ultimately I feel was a mistake. Other winners last year, I mean, we got the first opportunity to see Ki Hoi Kwan and Michelle Yeoh have beautiful acceptance speeches. We also got to see people who would ultimately not win anymore, but they won something. Colin Farrell for Banshees, yeah. Martin McDonagh won screenplay and best picture comedy, yes. Spielberg for directing and drama, absolutely. Of course, I love that.
Toro did his speech, right? Because then when
Yes.
he went to the Oscars, he just said he kept repeating the same thing.
Yeah, the same thing. So yeah. Also, another benefit is that some of the winners that go all the way to the Oscars, winning the same categories, give the exact same speech. So by the time we get to the Oscars, it's like, okay, I'm done. So the Globes going first, they avoid that situation, you know. But you know, the Globes go their own way, and I feel like, to me, you know what? I'm gonna save this bit for later on. I'm just gonna stay on this part. Anyway, I enjoyed last year's ceremony a lot, even though the host was terrible. This year, while I say the winners were great, and again, more on that later on, I think I can speak for all of us here, where this year's show was easily one of the least enjoyable in the history of the show. For a myriad of reasons, actually. And I feel like I don't know what exactly happened. We can't ignore the fact that a big change happened, which is they went from NBC to CBS, and I don't know how much of the same team stayed over from one network to the other. I don't know how much of the writing team stayed over, how much of the production team, and those are huge essentials to see if you can be pulled off successfully or not. And I just feel like, as an award show, the Globes kind of did everything wrong except for the winners themselves. And again, before we even get to the host, here's the big problem. Yes, they took place in the same hotel ballroom they always do, but they went from 5 acting nominees to 6 acting nominees in every category, and I'm for that. But people were much more cramped. Also, they made it. But you know what also changed? Why it looked more cramped and smaller? They had the stupid ass decision to extend the stage from the front of the room to all the way to the center of the room. They had like this circular platform, if you notice that. And so they would walk up to be in the middle of the audience so that the host and the presenters would have people on all 3 sides, like a peninsula. Whereas in the other years, that wouldn't exist. That space is for freaking tables to be there and stars to be there. And the stage is the stage. And honestly, they should just go back to that, because them even extending the stage outward was a disaster for a lot of reasons. Not just the cramped space, but also they did this really awkward thing where, depending on who came out as far as presenters, they would either look this way, or they would look that way, or they would look this way. They would have like all their backs turned to whoever would be behind them, just because they wanted to show off some, like, okay, I'll even call myself out. You know how I have my TV behind me and I have like a little bit of an effect? That's what they wanted to do, which is that they had like a little like LED wall panel off in the distance where they would show off, you know, who won and everything. But it didn't work ultimately. And it made the presenters look even more stiff because they were so close together. The camera was so zoomed into them as well. The whole thing was a complete misfire. On top, and this is where you can tell the writing really fell off hard, it was bad enough that the host was what the host was, but a lot of the material, a lot of the banter they gave these presenters was terrible, on top of it being long. There is no reason. It was all of them were really long, and it made it feel even longer. There was no need for that. Just say, hey, I'm this person and I'm that person, and here are the nominees for this category. It's that simple. And this is the thing that all award shows need to understand. Nobody at home, and I would even honestly wager that most of the people who were in those rooms do not like that. Do not like the banter. It's not funny. It's not clever. The only moments that worked were by dumb luck. Like, hey, if anything, anytime you bring Will Ferrell or Kristen Wiig, you're gonna make people laugh.
Yeah.
That's how, because they're talented. Go figure. Go hire talented people. You know,
because it's them.
Yeah, and there was this wonderful interaction between John Batiste and Andra Day, and that felt natural. It didn't even feel scripted at all. So again, a lot of the best moments on the show have happened with no script. Like that moment years ago where Natalie Portman just so like went for it and saying, and the all male nominees for best directing are. Which changed the culture in a way, because look how how many more women have been getting nominated for Best Director at all of these award shows. Like at least one woman a year, which is, hey, that's very low expectations, but that's a significant improvement from 0 women a year being nominated for Best Director.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, I think this year's show was missing a lot. It was missing the usual writing. It was missing the production value. It was also just missing the off-script moments. It was missing the chaos.
Yeah.
It was way too like structured, and I think I felt like they felt so much pressure to be on top of it that they forgot to be themselves. The whole point. Even Gervais said this one of the years he hosted, like the Globes are to the Oscars what Kim Kardashian is to Kate Middleton. A bit drunker, a bit trashier. It's just, but that's what makes them fun, though.
Yeah.
That's their identity. And I feel like this year they forgot to be themselves. They were trying to be the Oscars, and it didn't really work out that well for them, So that was a disappointment in and of itself. Before I move off of the presenters, were there any others that stood out? Like, I think a lot of them were just flat out bad.
It was pretty bad. And I didn't realize that what they were doing was really long, and you could tell how cramped they were. That was crazy. How long it took them to get to the stage. And they literally would all not a single person was like, where do I straight to the stage.
Every time the bear or beef won, they would take them like 5 minutes to get from they were at the back of the room all the way to the
Why
to
would
the
they
stage.
do that too? That was crazy.
You just hear the music repeat over and over and
I
over.
know,
And just
especially
oh my God.
especially when of course they were gonna win everything. So you should maybe put them closer. But that's one of the ongoing jokes is the TV people are made to sit on the balcony seating, and the movie people sit right front and center. That's kind of how it's been like for the entire history of the Globes. So that's
even my dad was like, damn, what the fuck, they're going through a fucking maze.
You really are. And again, it made a big difference because again, in every acting nominee, it wasn't just five people, it was 6 people now per category. So a lot more people. Oh, one of the funniest moments I will say, I don't know whose idea it was to sit Jared Leto, Nicolas Cage, and Joaquin Phoenix at the same table. But if you noticed, by the end of the night, everybody abandoned Jared Leto, and he was sitting by himself on that table. I'm not even joking. Go back and look at those pictures. He was just there, and he seemed fine, just happy to be there. But the whole table had just left him. There was nobody there. I bet Nick Cage just left to go celebrate his birthday, which I would too.
I would too.
Instead of sitting with Jared Leto of all people, that's just like that was just funny. I mean, again, the best moments are the moments that you couldn't plan for. Like everyone's talking about Timmy and Kylie, is that her name? Them basically, doing what couples of that age do, especially in Hollywood in front of everybody. And then everybody wants to know what the hell was what tea was Selena Gomez spilling to Taylor Swift during the commercial. The commercial. I wish they had a camera for the commercial breaks. That way we can see all of the people who are interacting and talking, because those are some of the best moments of the whole show. I think a lot of people were talking about how they were speculating that Selena Gomez had asked for a picture with Timmy and Kylie, and Kylie said no, and that's what she was spilling tea and Taylor Swift about. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say that that's untrue, but I don't know. But again, David,
It's
go ahead.
just funny.
I just remember the moment with Jennifer Lawrence when they were awarding for Best Actress or something like that.
Yes.
And they point the camera at her and she just mouths, "If I don't win, I'm leaving."
Yeah,
That's
she
funny.
mouthed it. Again, she's somebody who is also a comedic talent as well. Not a comedian, but she's been in a lot of comedic performances. Why shouldn't she host a show? And especially she's very well liked.
She's
Jennifer
hosted
Lawrence.
I don't remember if it was Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah,
She's kind of good at whatever she does.
It's not an award show, but I think she would be pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, you're right, David. That was a great moment as well. Yeah, it's like, look, those are the moments that should have been seen on TV. And unfortunately, not many of them happened, first of all, but hardly any of them happened when they should have happened. Which is in front of our faces when we're actually watching the damn thing in the first place.
And they didn't air the red carpet.
That's true. Yeah. Although
I
to be
love the red carpet.
I think next time try. I think E still does the red carpets for the Golden Globes.
I heard that they didn't do it this year. Maybe they did. I don't know, but I heard that they didn't.
That would be weird. I know that on ABC, the Oscars have on ABC television network, they do a red carpet show. But for all the other ones, I do believe that E usually just are the only ones that air it to do the red carpet. That was an element of the show that was missing as well. So I guess we got all the meme-worthy moments, all the viral moments happened in the most unfortunate of circumstances. And I guess this kind of brings us to the elephant in the room. Alexis, I think I gotta admit to you, when I read a few weeks ago that CBS had hired Joe Coy to host the show, I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And you had an interesting when you asked a question on the last recording that you and I did. You asked who's hosting, and I told you it was Joe Coy, and you were like, okay. I feel like some of those suspicions were very much validated with what transpired on that show. Do you guys want to leave this off? Because
I mean, I think I was the first one to be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
It was so bad. Like it was not funny. He was so awkward. And everybody's faces in the room was what was making me laugh, because we were all making the same face at home and in the show. It was pretty bad. Like I think I said at least he's kind of better than the one from last year, but like not by much.
If at all.
I remember the moment something fell off was when I went right up next to Ale, and I was like, are they putting a laugh track in the show? Like, it just felt, the last felt so
literally nobody
fake,
was laughing.
and I just wasn't sure what's going on. And I mean, yeah, his jokes, you were listening to it before we started here, and then they were just like cheap shots, honestly.
They were easy. They were like, I feel like those are jokes that a fifth grader would write. It was just, to me, unfortunately.
And then he just gave up. He just gave up.
So the show, I mean.
Yeah, like he didn't show up for like the last half of the show. I literally, like, towards the end was like, did he get kicked out?
Yeah.
Like, and then just his comment of, I got hired 10 days ago. Please.
You know, a monologue is going, it's going great, right? And I counted this too, because before we started doing this podcast, I was rewatching it just to make sure I had it fresh in my mind. For you guys, of course. Not that I wanted to watch it again, but 3 minutes and 35 seconds into the monologue is when he starts throwing his writers under the bus.
Oh my god.
3 minutes and 35 seconds into a 10-minute monologue.
I thought that the presenters taking that long was because he legit got kicked out.
Some
Like, I
people were
thought-
actually saying that too. I noticed that chatter. It's like, why are they taking up so much time in the presenting categories? Like, and where's Joe Coy?
Listen, his jokes were pretty bad, and I really did not like that Barbie joke. Like, I thought
Who did? Who on earth?
so
Ryan
bad.
Gosling didn't like it. I mean,
It was so
there was
bad.
I think one of the worst moments. I know everyone's talking about the Taylor Swift moment, but one of the worst moments for him was when he was making that very bad Barbie joke, and then it cuts to Ryan Gosling, and he's just like,
Really? Like, and then
He
it comes
wasn't
to
laughing.
Greta Gerwig. Please.
"Oh, it was a
I mean,
Barbie booby joke, by the way, which is
That
so
was stupid.
stupid." That's the thing too, is that the jokes were bad in various different kinds of ways. I think, to me, just to say that it was unfunny is not doing it justice. I feel ultimately Joe Coy gave a legendary performance that will go down in infamy as one of the worst presentations on any award show throughout the history of mankind. Why? Because every single joke was all kinds of unfunny, stupid, irrelevant, and tone deaf. On top,
like, it was. We were talking about it. You were saying earlier, like every joke before, or like the jokes that land is at the expense of, like, the people, not what you're there for. Like, does that make sense? Like, not what they're getting awards for. And he kind of did the opposite, and it just did not work. Because a lot of these movies talk about serious things and talk about, and it's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like there was always some kind of state of the state of Hollywood, or a commentary of the state of movies. Every time that Tina, Amy, and Ricky hosted, there was like, if it somehow came together, for some kind of a theme. But this guy was just like going around and making like the easiest jokes and thinking somehow that they would be funny. Like, to me, one of the most like boring, lame, and intellectually insulting jokes that he made, which there were most of them, mind you, but the one that I think made the least amount of sense. And again, like, this is like, you've never seen a person bomb this hard when he's like, okay, he's calling out a particular project, and then he sets up the joke, he does the punchline, it cuts to the actors, and they're confused. That's what I mentioned with Oppenheimer. He was making a joke about Oppenheimer being the longest movie of the year, which makes no sense because that was Flower Moon, first of all. If it was a Flower Moon joke, maybe it would make more sense. But then also, Oppenheimer made almost $1 billion. Most people watched the movie and got through it because they watched it in theaters. So that joke just makes no sense on any level. And so it cuts to RDJ, and he's like, like, he's just like raising his eyebrow, like, really? That was the joke. Again, how it cut to Ryan Gosling with that whole Barbie booby joke, which is, that was the point where it just went downhill.
Yeah.
And then when he realized that that was happening, he then cut to like, I got this job 10 days ago. And then he was saying that the jokes that you're laughing at are mine, and the ones that you're not are theirs. Throwing your whole team under the bus on live television in real time as your comedy routine is bombing. And the thing is, it was so bad because like it started off badly, but it kept getting worse. Like, he was turning the whole room against them. I didn't hear this clearly, but according to some reports of people who were in the room, it was going so poorly at one point that he made a joke about Flower Moon, which I think to me was one of the least offensive jokes, because there was a kernel of truth that, yes, white people steal everything. And yes, that's in a way what Flower Moon was saying. and that even and also Flower Moon itself acknowledged that the people who made the film in and of itself were not necessarily the people to tell the story. We've talked about that when we did our review of Flower Moon, but evidently Coy didn't get the movie if you watch the movie. And when he made that joke and cut to Marty, he's like doing a polite smile, but you hear boos in the background for that joke that he made.
Damn.
And again, like there was this really, again, a lot of the jokes just like, what? One about something about being a character actress. There's this like shot of him looking out at the sea of people. He does the joke, and I'm not even kidding you. I watched it right back in successive order. No one laughs, and then you see Selena Gomez do this, and then Harrison Ford, and then at the same time that Selena Gomez does this, Helen Mirren at the front does a face palm. Harrison Ford, who's behind Helen Mirren, looks at her, just does a like, can you believe this guy? Like, nobody in the room was enjoying it. You've never seen a room turn on a host like that quickly into the night, which only just, I think, illustrated to you how inept of a decision it was to hire him and how out of his depth he was to even be there in the first place. You can only get away with telling these jokes if, one, they're funny, and two, if they know you. Nobody in that room knew who Joe Coy was. Nobody knew who that was. And now they know him, and now he will never, ever be invited back to host anything. Because I think, what was it? Someone posted on the Gold Derby one that, or not Gold Derby, I think it was Variety. One of them was saying that a well-known director, which I don't know, I mean, Nolan, was it Spielberg, was it, because they were all in the room, was it Scorsese, was it Cooper, Lanthimos, Gerwig, like who was in the room that fits that bill? But they were referred to as a well-known director, was saying that they got everybody in the room, and that was in reference to the Globes for the last few years were panicked that nobody would want to come after Tom Cruise sent them back their awards. Like, they were like, oh shit, are we done? Is anybody want to come back? But really, our celebrity is going to like miss an opportunity to celebrate themselves? Of course not. That, of course, they got uncanceled and everything. So yeah, so the director was saying everybody's here. They got everybody, and look, there were so many big stars. Jennifer Lopez was there, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Taylor Swift. The biggest stars were literally there. And the director went on to say that, and this is what they give us?
They're not wrong.
No, not even in the least. So it was, and then the monologue ended, and then somehow the next time he came out, he ended up making an even bigger ass of himself, if that was even possible.
Yeah.
The Taylor Swift joke. I'm sorry, the Taylor Swift joke. Because then it cut to her again. That's like, she must have been like the third or fourth person to where she was just like, no.
Nah.
And look, it's just, I feel like you look at the reviews, it's unanimous. Perhaps the single worst you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I just like, man, I can only imagine, because you guys watch it together and you're like, yeah. And I feel like it was so bad, the show never recovered. It didn't recover. And then, because it kept messing up in a number of other areas. And so, like, okay, to me, it kind of made the case that this show only ever works if you get maybe if you only ever get Amy or Tina or Ricky, but that's not fair. You need to have other people there. But it's also, I think we're getting to the point where a lot of like high profile, talented comedians don't want this job because it feels thankless. Like, Kevin Hart got fired before he even got to the stage. Chris Rock made a joke and got slapped for it. Now they're just here with Joe Coy. It's like, it feels more and more like they just are no longer interested.
And then I feel like in general, comedians have been getting so much
shit.
Some well deserved, others I don't think so. And it's just hard.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, to me, if you're the Globes, and I don't know if CBS would be interested in doing this. Who knows? But like, I should say though, by check out what the figure was, but they had like around almost 10 million viewers this year, which again, 10 million viewers for in 2024, 10 million viewers really are kind of the equivalent of like 40 or 50 at this point because of how most people have fallen off of traditional television and cable television, as a matter of fact. But you're right, Alexis. How incredibly inept are you as a host when you can't bring yourself to acknowledge the freaking strikes that, like, shut Hollywood down?
And I feel like that would be so easy to do. I don't know. It's so funny because I don't know if you guys saw videos of like people criticizing him and what he did, and then him saying, I got hired 10 days ago, and literally everybody was like, I had to turn in a project 2 hours before. So people were like, professors don't even give you a project 10 days before. They give you like a few days.
Yeah, I wish I'd have 10 days before something was due. The Globes viewers went up a whole 50% from last year, which I think is in large part to it being on a different network that has more viewers, in large part due to it being on a Sunday instead of a Tuesday, and in large part to people who are just having the TV on after their NFL football, which is what, ultimately that's the facts. And I think that's ultimately a win. I think that was a much needed positive headline for the Globes coming out of this, was to have that ratings headline. Because I feel like with this, at least for another year anyway, they've secured another season, I guess, for next year, for 2025. You would just hope though that
they're prepared.
Either they pick somebody better or they just don't even bother with a host. Because that's kind of what it's come down to. Because it was so painful. I was literally on the whole time it was happening. After the 3-minute point, I was on my phone looking at the Twitter reactions instead of the actual monologue itself. That's where we were at. And that's not a success. And also, just again, for the show being on a new network and a new home, that was just not the right foot to start things off with somebody that badly. And then
can you imagine the Globes without a host and without like scripts? They're all drunk people. Like,
I know. That's why it's like, I do whatever you can to bring Ricky Gervais back. That's just my argument.
He won, and he didn't even.
That's the funny. I forgot he won.
I couldn't believe they didn't make a joke about that. I thought they were gonna be like, "Oh, Ricky Gervais is not here today. They kicked him out," like, or something like that, or like just say some kind of dumb joke at least. But no, nothing.
I mean, Tina Fey and Amy made that joke one time. The year that they replaced them, where they said Ricky Gervais could not be here tonight because he technically no longer is in show business. Like, you see, it's just as easy as that.
Oh God! Like him not being there to accept the award, and they couldn't make a joke after. Like,
yeah, like if they want to be who they should be, bring them back and lean more into that. That being said, I guess I'll say this. Joe Coy did a really bad job, but I guess the other people who will host can only go up from there. Jimmy Kimmel isn't my favorite host, but he's not the worst. And so he brings some material that's good enough. And so whatever. He's, I guess, he's the only person that seemingly wants to host the Oscars. So I guess it's going to be him. Anyway, that's the show, ultimately. So I guess we can now transition into the winners. I'm going to start off with the TV winners because there's so little to say about that. I don't watch Succession.
Mhm.
I
don't
don't watch. I don't watch The Bear, and I don't watch Beef. So the fact that it won all but one of the TV awards would probably indicate to you that I largely was indifferent to what was going on. Now, that being said, with some exceptions, I enjoyed seeing Stephen Yeun go up there to collect any kind of prize. And so I'm happy his career is taking off, as is Ali Wong. So good for them. Of course, my favorite one was Elizabeth Debicki, surprisingly winning for her performance as Princess Diana for season 6, the final season of The Crown, which we recently did a review on that on this channel. If you want to look into that, one of I think it was our last episode titled "Long Live the Crown." So look out for that one.
My dad was really excited for the guy who played Prince Charles to win, and then he did not.
Yeah, I feel like, look, again, in the past, also, it largely depends if you're a fan of the show, if it wins. Like, I know last year I forgot to mention that one of the biggest surprises was when House of the Dragon won Best Drama Series.
Yeah,
that was a big
they
fucking surprise.
couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, because I think half of them were drunk or not even there when they went into the stage. So
only 3 people of the show were there, and all drunk.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to shows that you don't watch and that, okay, I don't care. Like, and for me anyway, I'm so happy Succession is over because I'm ready for it to be over. Like, for years,
they won everything.
Every year they win everything,
which is
and
like
it's
good for them. And I'm sure it's a good show. I just have not watched it. But
and I'm not going to. And I'm not going to. I'm just like, I haven't watched it. There's no need for one TV show to win everything. There's no need for that. And guess what? The Emmys are like next week. The same shit will happen there. Matthew McFadden, Kieran Culkin, Snook something, Jeremy Strong, and Succession. It's like, boom, there you go. Easiest predictions in the world. It's just like, so I'm sick of seeing their faces. I'm sick of hearing about how great that show is. At the same time, okay. Anyway, The Bear is not even a comedy, and yet it's in comedy because it's a half-hour show.
There was one. Was that the one that won like comedy or musical? Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I was like, that's neither though.
Nope. It's not either of those things. The only reason it's in that category is because evidently Hollywood considers every show that's half-hour to be a comedy no matter what. And if it's an hour show, it's a drama. Stupid, right? Yeah, they're just stupid people that we're talking about. So yeah, because there were legitimate comedies in the category, but they never win because the one drama masquerading as a comedy ends up winning. Okay, so the TVs, I mean, I would have loved to have seen Dominic win. I believe Dominic West for Prince Charles. That would have been an amazing win. That didn't happen. So basically, every person that won, you'll see a repeat at the Emmys. So, which we're not going to watch or talk about because we basically saw them at the Golden Globes. So I don't need to see. I don't need to see another broadcast of that bullshit happening. And also, while we're raging about TV things, this is why I can't bring myself to care that much about covering the TV awards because of how full of shit they are. Like, just this week, the Screen Actors Guild Award had a whole category for action ensemble, right? And who do they nominate? Ahsoka. And The Mandalorian. 2 of the 5 nominees being from the 2 worst Star Wars shows? So it's like, I don't believe that you watch these things. If you watch these things, you wouldn't have them anywhere near you. You only nominated them because they're popular.
Yeah.
So that's why when it comes to the TV Academy, they're even more stupid. And even stupider than that are the Recording Academy, which are the Grammys. I don't even fuck with them. I haven't watched that show in years and years and years. Even though sometimes they have good winners, but ultimately, I don't know. They haven't felt worthwhile to me. I haven't watched the Grammys in like a long time.
Same.
And CBS also has the Grammys. So, yeah. CBS has the Grammys and now the Golden Globes. And the Emmys switch because they all share them. 1 year that's on CBS, 1 year is on Fox, 1 year is on ABC, and then ABC has the Oscars. And then for the other shows, and then this is where I feel bad is the movie shows who are being like, so SAG this year will be on Netflix. So there's that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the TV side of things. Not very interesting to me. So, and then last year, I can't say I watched many of those shows, but I was happy for who won. So that made those speeches worthwhile. So this year, again, even more reasons to not care about this broadcast overall as a whole. All right. Now getting into the actual winners that matter, the movies. Let me go ahead and read off all the winners because I do want to check also what our predictions were. Go through them. They're not very many of them. See which ones we got right and which ones we got wrong. So for best box office achievement, Barbie. We got that right, obviously. Yeah. Here's what I'll say about this. There's a lot of things to criticize the Golden Globes for. There's a lot of things to criticize award shows for. There's a lot of things to criticize the awards season for. I think all of our times are better suited to actually criticizing those things instead of just harping over and over and over again about how stupid the box office award is. Is it dumb? Yes. Can we move on? Can we actually get to the heart of like all these different issues that make these shows kind of suck in the first place? Ultimately, though, it was nice to see Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig go up on that stage, accept a prize for the movie. And, you know, I told you, these people care about those awards, even if it's a dumb thing like box office. Margot Robbie very much loved
their speech was really good.
Yes, it was. And so, I was happy to have that moment. And obviously, we all knew the only reason this thing was created in the first place was to get them up on the stage.
Also, did not know Taylor Swift was nominated. So that was kind of a good surprise, too.
Well, that's why she was there.
I know. I literally was like, why is she there? I did not know. So when her thing came up, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah.
So just a name check. We got that prediction right, David. And then some people were saying that Taylor would have won for the Eras Tour, which I think the old Globes might have gone for that. Yeah. You know, who knows?
I think I even said that. I was like, is she going to get nominated?
The one category, David, that you and I didn't even acknowledge because I don't know what happened. I just forgot it existed was the stand-up one. There were a lot of nominees. I forget all of them. I think Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, Ricky Gervais, Chris Rock.
I thought Chris Rock was gonna win.
Yeah, well,
but I'm also like not into comedy specials.
Yeah,
that was the only one I knew.
Yeah.
About.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. But I feel like if I think it was pretty obvious it was gonna go to Ricky because he just has that relationship with the Globes. So it's like, I was happy to see overall that there were hints of the old Globes in there somewhere with those wins. So they're still around, although maybe not as overwhelming as they used to be. But yeah, he won for the best stand-up one. So those are the two brand new ones. The next category was for the foreign language film one, and you and I got that one wrong. Well, I should say I got that one wrong. I thought they would go for Past Lives because Past Lives got more nominations than the ultimate winner here, Anatomy of a Fall, and Past Lives got a directing nomination. Anatomy of a Fall did not. So I was thinking that, okay, well, they're just going to go with the movie they like the most, and it seemed by these nominations it was Past Lives, and Past Lives went home empty-handed, which kind of made me sad.
Yeah, I know.
Which is
honestly, Anatomy winning was a good surprise, and they won a lot.
I mean,
of the
hey,
big ones.
to name check, it won two major awards that I didn't see coming. So one of the ones that we just mentioned was the foreign language movie, but the other one was screenplay.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming. Even on Gold Derby, it was fifth, or no, it was sixth in the odds to win for screenplay. I had Poor Things winning. A lot of people had Barbie winning, which could have been very reasonable choices themselves. But Anatomy winning, that's big and well deserved for that film as well. And also, there was a point where I'm like, are they gonna give Sandra Hüller the Best Actress award for that movie, because she was going up against Gladstone in Best Actress, but that ultimately did not happen. And so one of the other ones that we did get right was Lily Gladstone for Best Actress Drama in Flower Moon. The Boy and the Heron surprised a lot of people. Evidently, a lot of people, well, not us, but because you and I, David, were like, it could go either way. So we were prepared for anyone to win here. But a lot of people I found out were kind of surprised, because I think the odds-on favorite was Spider-Verse. But Boy and the Heron ended up winning here. A couple of things to say about that. I would say that for me anyway, I'm unique in that I think I love both films equally for very different ways. So it's just kind of like, ooh, how do you pick? Because I think they're both deserving of this prize, and they're both deserving of Best Picture nominees, if you ask me. So how do you pick? Well, I think the thing that I said would hurt Spider-Verse hurt it here, which was it's a sequel. And the Globes don't award movie sequels or animated sequels. They didn't. The 1 year that everybody was giving it to Toy Story 4, they were the only ones to not give it to Toy Story 4. They gave it to Missing Link from Leica Animation. So it wasn't really that big of a surprise, at least for me anyway. And also, it was a lot of international movies won. I thought it was gonna have a leg up in that department. But you know what I also thought was, it was pretty remarkable when it came out the following day, the actual stats that were attached to The Boy and the Heron. It was a historic win, because this was the first Japanese animated film to win at the Golden Globes. This is the first hand-drawn animated movie to win at the Golden Globes. The first...
What?
I know. The first hand-drawn animated film to win. Because I don't think it's been around as long. Because remember, the animated feature film category at the Oscars only began in 2001. It wasn't around for that long. And so the Globes, I think, came around 10 years later. It's the first PG-13 animated film to win Best Animated Feature. It is the first Studio Ghibli distributed movie to win. It's the first Miyazaki movie to win. So a lot of firsts there. And so I guess when you take that into consideration, long overdue. Long overdue for all of those things to happen. And hey, we're in 2024, and a hand-drawn animated film won over other 3D animated movies. That's progress in my view. That's coming back home. So this is a win to celebrate. Spider-Verse obviously was equally deserving, if not more so, for a lot of other people. And I will say, though, I do think that Spider-Verse has a better chance to win at the Oscars, because the Oscars are a much larger group of voters, and here's the difference. And this is why the nominees are always a little bit different than the winners, because the nominees, only the costume people nominate the costume nominees. Only the animators nominate the animated nominees. Only the songwriters nominate the songs. Or the directors nominate the directors. But when it comes to the voting, every member of the Academy can vote on any category. And so oftentimes it's the most popular one. I think Spider-Verse is more popular than Boy and the Heron, and I think that's the one that's going to win the Oscar. And if that's the case, great. Which, to me, I go back to this. I am a proponent of different movies winning at different shows. What is the point of having like 5 different shows if the same winners are going to collect prizes at the exact same categories? It gets boring when you do that. So that's why I hope for different winners. Also, you could see that Florence Pugh was excited. I wish that she would have been designated to say something. Mark Hamill was also in attendance because he presented the other award earlier. So it's like I don't know, and you know who else was there? Joe Hisaishi was there, but he can't speak fluently in English, so I understand maybe he not wanting to put himself in that position. I get that. Although I feel like if he won, maybe his translator would have come up with him. The thing like Bong Joon-ho had when he won all those awards a few years ago. So
I was pretty sad that nobody said anything
because they came and it went. Like, and those are the ones, especially like when Anthony Hopkins won for Best Actor. But then again, that was a whole different situation that year anyway. But yeah, I was happy to see that happen for that movie. And I mean, I'm not saying Boy and the Heron can't win the rest of them, but I've been saying that it's been pretty split, you know? Spider-Verse does better with other groups and Boy and the Heron does better with other ones. I mean, so we'll see where it goes. The Critics' Choice have this category too this coming week, so we will see which one they end up going with. But the Critics' Choice themselves were skewered because they left off Spider-Verse off of their Best Picture list. And why were they skewered? Because if you look at that critic score, that's one of their favorite movies of the year, Across the Spider-Verse. And why didn't it get in? Maybe because they know the Oscars are not going to nominate an animated film for Best Picture. That's why. And they want to predict the Oscars. They don't actually want to be themselves. But then again, Critics' Choice, they're just copycats. They're nobody. So anyway, that was animated feature. Original song. This was actually really enjoyed seeing Billie Eilish win. We got this one right. This is a very easy one.
Great speech.
And it's a great song too. Not that I ever said it wasn't. I've always thought it was a perfect song for the movie. And to me, you could also even make the argument that What Was I Made For, well, was even more impactful than I'm Just Ken for the Barbie movie because of its scene. And I know we talked last week how a lot of people were like filming reactions to Saltburn for the moments on TikTok. I've been seeing on TikTok pop up people react to the Barbie scene, that moment where, you know, Rhea Perlman is holding Margot Robbie's hands and just like feel, and the whole montage happens with the song playing over it. That's an emotional moment. That's one of the most memorable moments of cinema last year. And that song in and of itself, to me, is just simply one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And the more I hear it, the more I love it.
And I don't know if you guys have seen videos of Billie Eilish talking about when she wrote the song and what the song means to her. Like, the speech that she gave was just kind of like a little itty bitty part of it. But her actually talking about the song, for me, it just makes me like love the song even more.
Yeah, and I think it always had this quality, and it still has this quality that whenever it comes up, whenever I hear it, there's a party that gets a little bit emotional. It kind of reminds me of like when I first heard one of the best songs ever featured in any movie. And as it turns out, a previous Golden Globe winner for Best Picture, Comedy, or Musical, Toy Story 2, When She Loved Me by Sarah McLachlan. That's one of those moments where it just sticks out in your mind of like, damn, that was a gut punch right there. Which, by the way, also kudos to the Globes. I did not know this, but I looked into their history. Not only did they give their Best Picture prize to Toy Story 2, they also gave it to The Lion King back in the day. But like when both of those movies weren't even nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So just another reason. Exactly. So yeah, this one seems to me like she's gonna win everywhere. It feels definitively done. Like, and it's funny how people were saying that Billie Eilish is gonna win her second Oscar before Bradley Cooper wins his first.
I saw that. That's so mean.
Also, Billie Eilish is gonna win her second Oscar when Diane Warren can't even win one. Diane Warren is a frequent songwriter. She writes songs for movies every year, and she's A 13, 14-time nominee, never won once. I know, it's quite shocking. But her songs usually come from movies nobody watches anyway. But she does have an honorary Oscar. Like this past week, Angela Bassett got her honorary Oscar, which I'm sure somebody made a couple of phone calls because she was not happy last year when she lost to Jamie Lee Curtis for Best Supporting Actress. Yeah, if you look at her face, she was just devastated. But she got the honorary Oscar now, so that's somewhat changed. So we predicted Billie Eilish, and that's what ended up happening for that one. So that was correct. The next one we also got right, which was for Best Original Score, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, which makes sense. And by the way, that Oppenheimer train is rolling. They're doing, like, just this week, what's happened in the news? It wins 5 Golden Globe Awards. It also is back in theaters in IMAX, and it's selling out. It's hitting streaming for the first time on Peacock, made available. It's got everything going for it. It's just, it is a runaway train that can't be stopped. More on that in a bit. But this score, and they also did Nolan and Göransson hosted a concert with Göransson doing a live orchestra of the score to the movie. So nice. They are campaigning hard. Like, Nolan is not going to let this slip through his fingers. Like, he is doing all of it. And he's lucky that he has a beloved film on his hands, and that's what's going on here. Did this deserve to win? Hell yeah, it did. It's an amazing score. We all kind of were calling it out when we saw the film. That being said, though, this category actually had a lot of great nominees. It had the score from Past Lives, the one from Poor Things, which when you see it is one of the most unique sounding scores as well.
Even when they played it, when they were announcing it, it just sounds so cool.
Yes, absolutely. They also had the Flower Moon score, which came from the late great Robbie Robertson, who was his last collaboration with Marty Scorsese. That was also here, but then also you have the 2 animated scores, Spider-Verse from Daniel Pemberton, and then of course Boy and the Heron, Joe Hisaishi, who, again, it's ridiculous how this was Hisaishi's first ever nomination. On Twitter, I saw a compilation of all of his scores for Miyazaki's movies, and I'm like, how has this man never won, let alone be nominated? It's insane to me. So, yeah, David and I were both rooting for Joe Hisaishi, but it wasn't a surprise that Ludwig won here for Oppenheimer. I will say, though, as far as what this category would look like with the Academy, I'm scared for a couple of reasons. And I'm scared because if anyone's getting bumped off, of course, it would be the animated movies that are the first to go. And they only have 5. So you're going to have your Oppenheimer, you're going to have your Poor Things, you're going to have your Flower Moon. That leaves 2. And that's very unlikely that they're both going to get in. So I'm already preparing myself for the worst. But it also, what are some other contenders? The Zone of Interest. No, never mind. That got disqualified. The Barbie score could get in here because Barbie is getting a lot of nominations. Mark Ronson, I think, did a great score for Barbie. I was actually hearing it this past weekend, and I'm like, okay, I can see that getting in here. And I wouldn't be angry. I mean, I don't think it's any better than the ones that the Globes nominated, but I could see it getting in here. But here's the other thing, because the Grammys just did this too. And David and I were just like, oh, God. And every person that brings this up, we're like, what if they just do this? And it's just like, but why? What if they freaking nominate John Williams for Indiana Jones?
Oh, no. Yeah. Right.
What do you mean the Grammys just did this?
The Grammys nominated. They have a category of movie scores, and they nominated Indiana Jones.
And took out what?
I don't know. And here's the scary part is I don't know if the Lucasfilm team is just if they've got an inside thing going on, Indiana Jones also made the long list for best visual effects, so another nomination. Also, again, this past week, the SAG nominated it for best stunts. So I unfortunately have to say there is a threat that Indiana Jones comes out with 2 nominations for score and for visual effects, neither of which it deserves, not even in the least. So that is score. And I feel ultimately this is another one of those categories that's just locked. Ludwig will most likely win all of them. The next one, screenplay, we talked about already. This one's open because nobody saw Anatomy winning. I was happy to see them winning. This is actually one I can tell you. I'm not sure because I think it depends on the day. I
feel like this is the one where we're like we don't know.
Yeah, it could go to Oppie. It could go to Barbie. Maybe even Killers. Because if you're not going to give Marty directing, clearly you're not at this point. If you want to give him something, this is the one place you can, because he has a screenplay credit on this too. So I could, or Anatomy, no. So this is the thing. Globes has one screenplay category. It went up against all of these and beat the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
At the Oscars, there's 2 screenplay categories. There's original, and then there's adapted. Barbie, Oppie, and Flower Moon are all in adapted, but Anatomy is in original and will compete against either American Fiction, May December, Saltburn, maybe if it gets in there, and Past Lives. Maybe even The Zone of Interest as well. So those are the nominees on that side of it. Poor Things is also an adapted as well. So there's going to be best picture contenders in that category. So the screenplays are both very interesting races, and this didn't make it any clearer who's going to win, which I love because in an award season, I want this to keep going. I don't want to already know who's going to win everything, you know? So, and by the way, I think all of them would be deserved winners, and that's rare.
Yeah.
Like, to me, if you ask me, what would I think would win? Well, ultimately, I think Oppie is in the lead for picture, and screenplay and picture usually are connected. So I would think that Oppie would win for screenplay. At the same time, man, would it be amazing if we got Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach up there for Barbie, because that was like such an inventive screenplay, such wholly unique unto its own, and they deserve something big, honestly. You know, that's a win I think that Barbie truly deserves to be up there. But then again, the adaptation for Flower and Moon was incredible. That was a true, like,
there's so many.
And then when you watch Poor Things too, because Poor Things is one of the funniest scripts of the whole year as well. So this one we ultimately got wrong, as I mentioned earlier. Poor Things lost, but Anatomy won here, which we're not too mad about because it makes for an interesting race. So we're good on that. The next one was supporting actor, RDJ. And you know, I got to say this. It's amazing to me how, it makes me feel like, man, was Downey Jr. even acting on those Marvel movies? Because it felt like Tony Stark was there. Just it's the same person. It's not even like there's a little bit of separation. It's the exact same person. He just went out. I felt like I watched Tony Stark accept the Golden Globe Award, which was kind of surreal in a way.
Yeah.
But this was one of the easier ones to call. We all had a feeling walking out of Oppenheimer months ago that this is the kind of role these people love to award. RDJ has won before. This might be one of his more like memorable roles in his career. It's a big film as well. It kind of was a no-brainer, even though any other winner here would have been wonderful as well.
Yeah.
Like
I
De
just
Niro.
want all of them to win. When I remember that one when they were announcing each person, I'd be like, oh yeah.
De Niro, Ruffalo, and Gosling also were in that. Defoe also was in here as well.
I want Mark Ruffalo to win. I haven't even seen the movie. I just want him to win.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned last week the best performance he's ever given, and one of the most memorable he's ever given, and one of the most comedic performances I think I've ever seen.
But you can say that about all of them.
That's the thing too. Yeah, I really wish we would have different winners at different shows. That way we could keep things interesting. And like, I would
And
love
they
a
could
scenario.
each give their own speech.
Exactly how I feel. Finally, somebody that gets me here. It's like that's what I've been saying the whole time. Um, one thing I will say though is that a development happened this past week where Charles Melton did not include him on their list. They got Ruffalo, De Niro, Gosling, and Downey Jr., but they included Dafoe. And Willem Dafoe is somebody who is like, he just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a beloved treasure, I think, with this group and especially with actors. And so, and keep in mind also, this category does double nominees a lot. Last year we had Barry Keoghan and Brendan Gleeson. The year before that it was Cody Smith-McPhee and Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog. A lot of people were thinking, because of how, and it's not impossible, this could happen still, Oppenheimer being such a big movie where you could have both RDJ and maybe even also Matt Damon pop in here for supporting actor. Not that he deserves it over anybody else in that movie, but just saying that he's a big Hollywood
what about
name.
one of the actors from Past Lives?
I wish. Well, they should all be nominated, honestly.
Yeah.
Tio Yu and John Magaro should be included. And Greta Lee also. I just realized, shit, none of them are going to get nominated at the Academy Awards. Fuck, they should all be in there. Should all be in there. Maybe Greta Lee sneaks in. That's it. The other ones are just not, they're not appearing anywhere else, which is, it's messed up. But what was I saying before? May December is not doing well these last few nominations rounds. It's not winning anything. Charles Melton was left off, and so it's now an open race for who gets in the category. But I did want to say this. I want to stop here and acknowledge the nominations at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, because there's been some controversy, and here's another dumb rule that needs to change. So, did you know that at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, their big award is Best Ensemble Cast? But even if your movie gets nominated, it doesn't mean you as an actor are included just by being in the movie, which is stupid because like the award is Ensemble Cast. Here's the thing. If you are a big name and your agent negotiates you getting a single title card at the end of the credits, you are eligible to appear on this list. If you're a low-time actor that doesn't have a big agent and doesn't do many movies, you're not going to get. Your name is going to appear with 5 other names in the same card.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're ineligible. And you know what that means? It means that when Barbie this week was nominated for Best Ensemble Cast, you know who was included? Michael Cera, Helen Mirren, but you know who was left off? Simu Liu.
I feel like everyone should be in it though. Not just
what I was saying, right? You know who were the only people nominated for Flower Moon? Let me see here. So okay, you got. I think I'm trying to see how many of them were actually. Okay, Jesse Plemons got in for playing the FBI officer. John Lithgow for the lawyer who was there. Brendan Fraser, who was there for a few minutes. Of course, the big stars: Leo, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone, and of course, the one other native actor who played Lily's mom, Susie Q, Lizzie Q, played by Tantu Cardinal, was there. That's it. Of the huge cast that's in Killers of the Flower Moon, those are the only names included nominated for Best Ensemble Cast. In Oppenheimer, that had a large cast. You know who? Do you know who was? Do you want to know who was included there? Well, I mean, of course, Killian and Emily were included, as well as Robert Downey Jr. But unfortunately, there were some people who were left off that, to me, is quite stupid here. So give me a chance here to find exactly where. Okay, so here it is. So for Barbie, the people nominated were Michael Cera, Ferrell, I'm sorry, America Ferrera, Ryan Gosling, Ariana Greenblatt, Kate McKinnon, Helen Mirren, Rhea Perlman, who played Ruth, Issa Rae, and Margot Robbie. That means Simu Liu was not there. Chudi Gatwa was not there. All the others. Oppenheimer. These are the only ones who were nominated. Casey Affleck. Emily Blunt. Kenneth Branagh. Matt Damon. Robert Downey Jr. Josh Hartnett. Rami Malek. Cillian Murphy. And Florence Pugh. You know who was not in that list? I'm going to pull up the full cast list right now on Letterboxd. That way I have it in front of me, of Oppenheimer. The people who were not included in that list, who played substantial roles in the movie Oppenheimer, include, well, Benny Safdie, Jason Clarke, who played the prosecutor. He was a big part of that film, especially in the last hour.
Wait, he was not nominated?
No, he wasn't included because he didn't get a single title card. Nope. I know. Alden Ehrenreich was in a lot of the movie. He wasn't included in the nominees. David Krumholtz, who played one of Oppie's closest friends with the glasses, always had food with him. He was not included on the list. All three of those characters have a lot of screen time in that film and are substantial players in the movie. Nowhere to be seen in that list for the Screen Actors Guild. All because their agents couldn't negotiate them having a single title card at the end credits.
It's a weird category.
That is.
It's a SAG thing.
I thought it was just the whole movie gets...
You would think, right? Because duh. But...
That's wild.
Yeah. So I just wanted to take the time to call out that foolishness because that needs to change. That's just terrible. A lot of those actors, it's just not fair. They don't have the opportunities that the bigger ones have. And this film, being in this movie, was a big plus for their careers. So they should be nominated. I don't get it. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense because I remember in the 3 years that Orange is the New Black won for Best Ensemble in a Comedy Series or Drama Series, like 40 people came up there on that stage because, duh, it was a large ensemble. I don't understand. And I'm upset. So I'm going to move on from this. Anyway, I feel like RDJ seems to have this in the bag. It's not going to change. Best Actor Drama. We got this wrong. I got this wrong because I was thinking, well, if anyone's going to give Cooper an award, it would seem to be them. I think it's looking like Bradley Cooper is one of those people that just gets nominated but never wins because it's been 10 years now. And this just keeps blowing up in his face. And it felt mean that when he lost, the moment he lost, the camera cut to him. And then after Cillian finished his speech, the camera cut back to him.
Oh, that's so mean.
So he didn't win.
He literally just had to sit there.
This is fine.
Oh my god. It literally looked like he wanted to cry.
Honestly, yeah. You could tell because I mean, and he does it to himself. I mean, he makes it obvious like how he feels about it, and we know how he felt about it. It's not nice to lose, especially when you're Bradley Cooper. But then again, considering how many times he's lost, he should be used to it at this point. It's just the reality of it. But I got to tell you though, I was genuinely excited to see Cillian win because he is another one of those actors that is not necessarily a leading man, not in the traditional sense. And he's most known for his collaborations with Nolan. And I think it's just really kind of appropriate that he's winning at the same time as Nolan is, because those two have been, as Nolan said himself, partners in crime for many, many years. And truly, it's hard to see any actor who got the exposure and got the chance to play a big character like J. Robert Oppenheimer did last year ever coming again. Like, you can make the argument that this is the best role that Murphy will ever get. Not that he won't get good roles later on, but this one probably will be the one he's most remembered for. And it was perfection. That performance carries the movie. Yes, that movie has amazing supporting players, but you're left on every word of his performance. And he absolutely, I feel, to me, gave the best performance of any of those there. I mean, I wasn't expecting Barry to win, even though I was happy to see him there. So, and I was happy for the nomination. So I'm not going to be mad at that. But speaking of actor, Best Actor Comedy, Paul Giamatti was an easy call. And he also gave a really good speech as well. And it makes you wonder, I think the race very clearly, this one is more competitive. I think it does come down to, is it going to go to Paul Giamatti or Cillian Murphy? And both of them have the same, but also a little bit different narratives. They both have been overlooked in the past, and they both never won before. So I guess it comes down to this. When we get to the Oscar night, how dominating is Oppenheimer going to be? And is it going to be so dominating that it offsets the love for The Holdovers? Because The Holdovers is another film that is beloved by a lot of these people. Paul Giamatti never having won before, this kind of seems like the perfect opportunity to give him an Oscar.
Both of their actors won.
That's right. The Holdovers won too for supporting actress as well with Da'Vine Joy Randolph. So, and that could be repeated as well at the Academy. It's not impossible. So we will see when it comes to Paul Giamatti, but I think he could pull it off in the end. I don't know which way SAG is going to go. The actors, are they going to give it to Cillian? Are they going to give it to Giamatti? As you mentioned, supporting actress went to Da'Vine Joy Randolph. I got to say, I thought she was great in the film. I really like The Holdovers. I think what's really surprising about the fact that she's winning is that it's a really subdued performance. It's not over the top. It's not the classy kind of performance that these people tend to go for. Like, in particular, any of the women in The Color Purple, which, by the way, just continues to get kicked in the face every day and every week. Color Purple left off everybody's list. The Producers Guild today did nominate it for Best Picture, which means it's been eliminated effectively from Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And at this point, people are saying it'll be lucky to get one nomination for Danielle Brooks in Supporting Actress, which is sad because I feel it is a really good movie. And what's best about it are the performances. And I feel really bad for Fantasia and for Taraji P. Henson and also for Oprah, because it's bad because Oprah got nominated the first time. The first Color Purple got 11 nominations. Nobody won. She comes back and produces this musical version. And now what? One nomination? I don't know. And Danielle Brooks is great in the film. And I feel like she, in normal times, would win, but it doesn't seem to be happening. And that's why it's like, my overall feeling, guys, with the Globes is there were great winners, but it led to some disappointment on my part because it kind of felt like a lot of these are going to be the ones that win the Oscars. And if that's the case, it almost felt like the season started and ended just then and there. And it kind of makes it for a less interesting race, which I bemoan because, like, I want this to be interesting. I want there to be a horse race. I want there to be open races. I want every category to make crazy picks and not have this, and not everybody
because we've been saying all of these movies have been so good. Like, we got so spoiled this year.
Yes.
Considering everything that happened, like, they all deserve to win at least once.
Which brings us to Best Actress, which, again, to me, I think the biggest cheers of the night, the people who were loved the most in that room, based on what I heard, Nolan, Gladstone, and Emma Stone. The two Stones. Which ultimately is what it comes down to for Best Actress. Because it's beginning to feel like it might be a Lily Gladstone sweep. But something also has me feeling it ain't over till the fat lady sings, right? Because, as they say, because Emma Stone was very beloved in that crowd. You can tell how much love there is for her and this movie and her role in it. Also, I know she's won a lot, Lily, but I wouldn't doubt there would be some Academy members who were like, but she's supporting and Emma's the lead in her movie. That could still play a part.
Yeah.
You never know. So, also, Emma Stone, I believe when she won at the SAG Awards for La La Land, her movie wasn't even nominated for ensemble that year, which was crazy to believe. But then she still won. So, as I've been saying, underestimate Emma Stone at your own peril. Honestly. But the way it's looking like, it feels a lot like last year's race, because looking back on it, Michelle Yeoh, I wouldn't change her win for the world. At the same time, Cate Blanchett gave one of the best performances ever. Her best performance ever in Tar. Legitimately. I think Emma Stone may have given one of her best performances in Poor Things as well, and I think it would otherwise be a winner, but we'll see where things go. But I think Lily is winning a lot of... Here's the thing. When it comes to award season, it's not the quality that matters. You know, it's not about if you're better than, you know, if you're a better movie. It's if they like you. Do they like you, and do they like your movie? And as Sally Field once said, they like me, they really, really like me. And you can tell sometimes in the room who gets the loudest cheers. Last year, that was Michelle Yeoh and anybody from the Everything Everywhere team. And this year, Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone both received standing ovations. Not everybody receives standing ovations. So that tells me that they're both beloved. And it could be a tight race, and it might be a tight race. But if you feel like the wind is at your back, and if you're winning everything, it's going to be harder for the Oscars to say no to you. Now, that being said, that hasn't stopped them in the past before. Remember a few years ago, one of the biggest shocks was, well, not La La Land, obviously. That was, of course, there's that. But I was thinking about Sylvester Stallone for Creed. He won everything in the lead up for Best Supporting Actor, except the Academy Award.
Damn.
Because we can't give Rocky Balboa an Oscar. What are you?
Stupid.
Come on. Yeah, that's what it came down to. The same reason why Won't You Be My Neighbor, it wasn't even nominated for Best Documentary. Why? Because it was too successful. It made too much money.
Ridiculous.
Also, we didn't talk about this on this show. Oppenheimer was not nominated for visual effects. I mean, it wasn't included in the long list. Where Rebel Moon was included, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was included for visual effects. Oppenheimer was not included because they were gloating about having no CG. Best Picture Comedy was Poor Things. We got that one right. People were thinking Barbie. I mean, we'll see what Critics' Choice does. I mean, who knows? Maybe Critics' Choice gives Barbie Best Picture. That would be hilarious, but that'll also be amazing for the race as well. But Poor Things is one of the films in contention. And then Best Picture Drama was Oppenheimer, and then Best Director was Nolan. Here's what I'll say. Because I'm going to have to get behind it, because it's just not going to change. I will say I like Nolan's speech a lot. And I will say that he actually came across like a human being in his speech. Like, and to be fair, I haven't seen too many clips of him speak, or give, I guess, opinions on movies. But I gotta say, his whole vibe this last year has done a lot to win me over. And of course, Oppenheimer did a lot to win me over as well. His whole thing of like being a big proponent of physical media has won me over in that regard as well. So yeah, he's a complicated guy, but for me, because of the whole Tenet and COVID situation, sure. Which of course we all selectively just forgot, right? Amnesia all around. Just amnesia all around. We're gonna act like he didn't release a movie in the pandemic and act as it was more important. Anyway. I liked his speech, and you could see that he got emotional because, he said that the last time he was on that stage was to accept for Heath Ledger, who had passed away, for Best Supporting Actor. And it only just goes to show you that it is kind of ridiculous that this industry, in all of these years, and it's been, 15 years since The Dark Knight? But even before then, how many movies has Nolan made, and most of them being huge box office hits, mind you. But Christopher Nolan perhaps is the single most influential filmmaker of the 21st century. These last 15 years have been shaped in large part because of his aesthetic, his whole way of movie making. The whole superhero genre was largely, the whole blockbuster movie making genre was largely affected by Nolan's movies. And it kind of feels like a resemblance to Spielberg, because Spielberg had this too, where he was making huge box office blockbuster movies, and a lot of which did receive nominations, but he would never win. He never received. So mind you, Jaws was in 1976. That got a lot of nominations, but it didn't include him. He was not included for Best Director. They do that a lot. Like, remember how Denis Villeneuve was not included for director for Dune, where then it got 10 other nominations? Ridiculous. But anyway, Spielberg received his first nominations in one of his movies in 1977. He did not get his first Oscar for Best Directing till 1994.
That's crazy.
For Schindler's List. And so it kind of feels like this with Nolan, where he's been making movies a long time. He shaped so much of the business, so much of the industry, so much of the taste that general audiences have in movies, but he's never won anything. In fact, I think the last movie he made before Tenet, which we don't speak of apparently, Dunkirk. I know, David, you like that movie a lot. That was one of his first nominations ever for Best Director, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So it brings attention how it is that this guy has never won before.
Yeah.
And him making the biggest movie of the year, and you see how much the Universal campaign behind Oppenheimer is brilliant. Where the fuck were you last year with Fabelmans, by the way, Universal? Like, that would have been nice to push that movie at all, a little bit, but moving past that. Same studio that released Cats, by the way. Anyway, they lucked out with Oppenheimer, biggest movie of the year. It just, at this point, looking at it on my TV, it seemed kind of undeniable at that point that it seems to be written in the stars that Oppenheimer and Nolan are going to go hand in hand for directing and picture. Like, like even Peter is like, it's over. And I feel like it's over. Like, even looking at the nominees, Oppenheimer is the only movie to not miss anything as far as nominations are concerned. It's just the movie of the year. The campaign's on fire. It's their kind of movie. It just seems like this is over. Am I wrong? What do you guys feel?
No,
yeah. I'm fine with it. Like,
it's a great film. It's one of our favorites of the year, and I think it's my favorite Nolan movie besides Dark Knight. It's a truly incredible film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't mind as long as Barbie wins screenplay.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I would love that. The only thing is this. Well, let me move back on what I was saying with Oppenheimer. I think we all really liked or loved Oppenheimer. But I think all of us here kind of preferred Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. That is for me.
I did too. And I feel like,
why don't they each get an award?
Right.
We'll give it to
I agree with that. I don't care what it is. Oh, well, to be fair, it's going to get Best Actress for Lily Gladstone. You can I guess that'll be its only win, but it deserves so much more than just that.
I want Scorsese to go up there, though.
That's what I wanted to see, man. That's why I was so bummed.
I want all three directors to go up there. Cause,
yes.
I mean, like, I understand, like, the actors and stuff, and not, like, they're obviously huge part of the movie.
Yes.
Like, the movie wouldn't happen without them. But I feel like this year, especially, like, the directors put so much into their movies this year.
Yes.
And I think that each of their movies means so much to them. And I'm not saying that in the past it didn't, but it just feels more that way this year for some reason. And I just want each of them to have their moment.
Yeah. Like, I know I've been saying this about, like you just said, all these directors, same situation. But like I said last week, how awesome would it be if Hayao Miyazaki was in the conversation for a nomination? He's never been nominated. I mean, he has an honorary Oscar. He's won for animation, but it's like, when are we ever going to have an animated director get in here? And if there ever were to be one, he's the one.
Yeah.
And he probably made his most personal movie this year. So personal, a lot of people didn't get, but it's very personal to him. But I think, we're all in agreement. It's like, I don't even care what it is at this point. I would love to see Marty go up there on that stage. And
I've never been more invested on, like, a director, like, category than this year.
I envy you because that's me every year, and I get burned every year.
Because I'm more like the actors, but this year they felt more. I mean, it's all very personal stories.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you could say maybe Oppenheimer isn't one, but you could tell how much this means to him, though. Like, compared to, like, the other movies that he's...
Yeah, no, for sure. I gotta say, though, not that this was much of a secret, though, but I'm growing increasingly bitter of the Daniels, because I feel like in one night, like, they won so many Oscars in one night, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I would have preferred Martin McDonagh for Banshees, and I obviously preferred Steven Spielberg for directing, because that also was a very personal film for him. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like Best Director. The last time I really was happy was Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, where he won. That was great. Damien Chazelle for La La Land.
Mm-hmm.
That was deserved, obviously.
That was a good one.
And Guillermo for Shape of Water.
Yes.
That was great. That was also well deserved.
Oh, the other guy.
Who won twice. Alfonso Cuarón for Roma and for Gravity. And then also Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu for The Revenant and for Birdman. Although The Revenant, I think it's aged very poorly, that movie anyway. Thankfully, that didn't win Best Picture that year. That was Spotlight, which, of course, that was the movie that should have won. But yeah, I mean, I try every year and I get too invested and I get disappointed every year. But whatever, whatevs. What can
I'm
I tell you?
excited for this one though.
Yeah, no. I'm too, but like I mentioned as well, it's like I'm a little bit disappointed because I would have hoped for a bit more surprises. And I am going to remain hopeful for more surprises as we go down the line to Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild, PGA, DGA, BAFTAs, and then finally to the Oscars. But I got to tell you, the way it's looking like, I think there's a real chance that Oppenheimer beats the record that in the modern era, because I know that there were movies in older years where they would win 10 plus, but I think Oppenheimer has a good chance. And right now, I feel personally, it's going to win 9. And that would be picture, director, actor, supporting actor, screenplay, probably editing, cinematography, sound, score.
Damn, that's a lot.
Which also reminds you, though, another parallel to Steven Spielberg, the best night he's ever had in his whole career at the Academy was when he won most of the Oscars for Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. Because I think Jurassic Park won 3, and then Schindler's won, I don't know, 5, 6, or 7. So 2 movies, 2 big movies, 2 legendary films. Yeah. So we're gonna stay tuned. We're gonna see where things go. But it's like, were they great winners? Yeah. Did they deserve those wins? Absolutely. Were they exciting? Yeah, but it also just feels like, for me anyway, I care far more about having a very fluid award season than just having the same freaking people go up there and give the exact same speech time and time and time again. That's ultimately where I fall on it, where it's like, yeah, I don't know about that whole thing. But I think that's kind of where we're gonna come to a close here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I ultimately, it kind of left me deflated because also the Globes just weren't as fun as they should be, and so it was like, man, I'm just so sad. This should have been way better than it was. And it wasn't. It wasn't. I do want to remind people though, before we leave, because Alexis, we didn't get a chance to talk about this when you were on. David was on and Peter was here. About the idea that this year, and right now, as the recording of this podcast, some of you can go watch Soul in theaters. But this big unprecedented move of Pixar having this also a marketing campaign for Soul Turning Red and Luca coming to theaters for the first time, because they were supposed to go to theaters the first time, but didn't get around to doing it. But you have to just look at how bad of a year, especially for animation, it's been. Just today, they released the nominees for the Annie Awards. The first time no Disney or Pixar film has been nominated for Best Feature.
Can't say I disagree.
How?
Except for Elemental. I love Elemental.
I've yet to see it, but I will see it. I will. Of course, I'm going to see Wish and Elemental. I mean, we can even, I don't know, maybe do a reaction to that, since we did. Oh, I should also take this time to plug our Little Mermaid audio commentary / reaction that we did here on our channel. David, Alexis, and I did that. They had previously seen it before. That was my first time watching it. I had fun with it. I thought it was a really interesting reaction to that. And it'll be up on YouTube and on our feed.
I would
I,
like to do a reaction for Elemental with all you guys.
I'm not opposed
'Cause
to it. We can do
I
that.
love
Yeah.
that movie.
And has anybody? David, you're the only one that saw Wish.
Yeah. For
Okay,
sure.
we can do it for Wish as well whenever that comes on Disney Plus. Why not? But it really just underscore what a historically bad year it's been for Disney when they can't even get a single one of their animated movies into the Annie Awards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I wonder, can they qualify Luca Turning Red and Soul again? Is it going to be in theaters?
For the first time.
For the first time. Not for the first time in forever, for the first time, period. I know that when Turning Red and Luca, I will for sure. I don't know about Soul, but for Turning Red and Luca, I'm gonna go watch in theaters. But for and if you're listening to this, you haven't experienced those films in theaters, do yourself a favor and do so, because that's how they were meant to be experienced, and it does make a difference.
And
I gotta tell you, it's Pixar, and how nice would it be to experience a really, really good Pixar movie in theaters? Yeah, it's really hard to see how things can get any more pathetic than this. For them anyway. What a historically bad year. And you gotta wonder what the hell is going on over there right now with
I mean, the
Disney.
fact that they're even doing this, I feel like things are pretty bad. Because they did it last year with and it's not like they've never done it before, but they've never done it like this, where it's like, they did it last year for the 100, but like that was kind of different. This is, I think they're desperate.
And they should be, quite frankly, based on how things have gone. Before we leave, David, I feel like there should be at least some addressing to the elephant in the room, because I kind of I have really mixed feelings about what has happened in the last couple of days. But I feel like my feelings for how mixed they are no better exemplified than by saying, fuck you, Kevin Feige. Now, you can use that for a lot of different things, mind you. But I feel just by me saying that should have given it away what I'm referencing. Honestly, full cards on the table. Does anybody here even care about Marvel Studios anymore? Because I certainly haven't for a long time. Not as a thing, as an entity. I feel like when I walked out of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with Marvel. And I kind of was, after that, I only saw The Marvels, which is fine. But I'm like, whatever. They're all gonna fall off a cliff. I mean, we're all gonna watch Deadpool 3 for sure. And with the hope that it'll be really good. But everything else, clearly a disaster. So what's my response to what's been happening lately with Daredevil? Well, I would say it is a considerable improvement that, as there was breaking news that came out today as we were just recording this podcast, that Karen and Foley are coming back. That is a considerable improvement. I ask any reasonably sane person, what leg do you have to stand on to defend yourself that whatever this is going to be anywhere near as good as the original Daredevil? When the person still in charge, mind you, of this, it was his idea in the first place to kill off the supporting characters. And the original rebooted version was going off in a direction that very much was removing the human elements. Now, you can argue that them coming back here is them putting that back in there, but I would argue it's not that. They're just saving face. They saw the reaction online and they were stupid enough to be surprised that people would be angry at that. So they asked them to come back. But, Echo has come out in the last few days, and, not to be unfair to Echo, it didn't receive terrible reviews. They weren't particularly that great either. Some were saying, it's a really good CW show. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna take this in another direction.
I mean,
not
I'll
about
bring it back,
Marvel.
but
Yeah.
don't worry. You can take it wherever.
Because I before we started recording, watched, which I don't even know if you guys knew that this is on Disney Plus, but they made a Goosebumps show. And it's really good. Like, me and David literally were talking when we got home from work how we don't have anything, like, any shows to watch at the moment. Like, we're watching Percy Jackson, but that's like, once every week. But like shows to like just put in the background, shows to actually get into, like nothing.
Nothing new anyway. All I watch is old stuff. Like for me, randomly, I started watching Reba again, and I'm like, why? Because there's nothing else to watch.
I've been watching Friends on the loop, like, and so I'm like, I want something to watch, and I watched the like 5 seconds when they came out, but I had to leave or whatever. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it on and see how it goes. And I'm like super into it. I'm like in episode 3, and the episodes are really long too, or at least they feel really long, but like in a good way. No marketing, no, like nothing. And also, I have a bone to pick. Have you heard that Sam Smith song? I can't even remember the song, but it's like one of the last songs that he came out with, which is not Disney friendly, and they're cussing on the show. They're like,
the one from the Barbie soundtrack. Sam Smith had a song on the Barbie soundtrack. Did you hear that one? It's
I think the song is called Unholy.
Oh no, the one I'm thinking about is called Man I Am. No.
Which again, like, I really like it and I really enjoy it, but it's just weird to see those things on a Disney show.
Sure.
Which also brings me to, if they're doing this, why was that Lizzie McGuire show canceled?
One of the stupidest decisions Disney has ever made, and that is a long list of stupid ass decisions. Which also, mind you, last week or the last 2 weeks, David and I touched briefly on the Nimona movie, which I saw and really, really liked. But I didn't realize that that was one of the final projects that was in development at Blue Sky Studios, which is the studio at Ice, that behind Ice Age and everything. But when they were absorbed by Disney due to the 20th Century Fox acquisition, Disney basically shut them down, and in particular, they wanted to cancel this project because they didn't want any of the LGBTQ storylines at all. They were terrified of it. And how poetic is it that when the Annie Award nominations were announced this week, Nimona received the most nominations when not a single Disney film could get into Best Feature.
Yeah, that's
Poetic
how
justice?
I knew about the movie, because of all of that, and Disney didn't want to release it. I think I don't know if the movie was done.
It wasn't done.
But it was like going already.
A lot of work was being done.
And a lot of animators love, because I believe it was a comic, or a graphic novel. Mm-hmm. And a lot of animators like campaigned for this movie to be made. And then all of that happened, and like everything was lost basically. So that's how I knew about the movie when before it came out. And then they finally said like, oh, it's coming out, and everybody was so excited.
Yeah. I also feel happy. I didn't mention this because that category is so dominated between Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron. But because of Nimona's performance here, I'm hopeful that means it can get a guaranteed nomination at least. Because I believe...
instead of Wish. I'm sorry.
It's looking like Wish isn't gonna be there because not a
I
single
think
song
Elemental
was.
should be there.
I think Elemental will because I think they like Pixar better than Walt Disney Animation. Pixar has won the most. Walt Disney Animation has only won for what exactly? It won Zootopia, it won Encanto, and it won Big Hero 6. I think those are the only ones.
It didn't want Frozen.
Oh yes, that's the other one. That's the other one. Of course, that one. Yeah, I forget. Even
And
though
Moana.
no, Zootopia.
Oh shit!
It's the same year, Zootopia and Moana,
Forgot.
but they still won ultimately. Well, the rest were Pixar, I believe. So there's that, and I don't know about Mutant Mayhem. I think it has a good chance, but there's also Suzume, which I've yet to see. So some really good animated movies that came out this year. So where were we? I feel like we went on so many different directions. Where did we go? The show is not being no, but after that we went off into like what we're watching and how there's no new shows right now. Okay. Going back, trying to rewind the tape here. My feelings are pretty not changed because I don't trust Kevin Feige as a creative. I have completely lost faith in him. And even if somehow what he's able to produce is good, it's not going to be what the show was. Even if you bring back the same people. And also, him bringing them back just goes to show you how tone deaf he was in the first place. Am I happy those actors have jobs? Yes. But they should have been asked back in the first place. It's ridiculous that they weren't. And it's even more insulting that their characters were going to be killed off originally. It's really bad. And I don't know why this shit happens. Which, on a different tangent, have you seen what happened to the actor that played Argyle in Stranger Things? So Argyle...
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
What happened?
They're filming Argyle? Stranger Things. Argyle was the...
I remember now.
Yes, the long hair guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're filming Stranger Things season 5 right now, and he didn't get a phone call to come back.
I don't think people liked him though in that season. I can't remember.
Did he
for
get
sure.
backlash?
I think a lot of people really didn't like him. So,
did you like him?
I thought it was fine.
Liked him.
I like the actor and some other stuff that he's been on. Like he's always really funny for me, at least.
He wasn't that big of a part. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I really do feel like people didn't like him at all in that season.
Are you saying that they Jar Jar Binks'd him?
Probably, I guess so.
That's unfair. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's just unfair. I thought he was a very charismatic presence, and it just feels. I feel bad for the actor.
I can't believe that show is still going on. I'm sorry.
No, but
I think I've only seen the first season,
and
it was good, but it just was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be honest, though, it should have ended a long time ago, but years go by between seasons. That's why it's like on.
I think it's been 2 years because I'm really into Bridgerton. I think it's been like 2 years.
This coming June, it'll be 2 years.
Yeah.
Why?
This is a really big problem for streaming shows and all that. This is a big problem right now that I'm complaining about the most in Percy Jackson. Literally,
I saw a picture of him recently. He looks nothing like he looks in the show.
So
people were pointing out it was his 15th birthday a couple of weeks ago, and people were like, "This is how he's supposed to look in the last book, the 5th book." So this is how he's supposed to look like
season.
Yeah, and so they're taking forever with this shit, and not just with Disney, but like all the other streaming services and all that. Y'all take forever on.
I don't understand if it's less episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like
less episodes, less time. And like, and especially for Percy Jackson at least, it's weekly. Like, look at your numbers by now and see if and decide, and so it just makes no sense. At least for
Go ahead.
like with Stranger Things, at least because it's all released at once. You kind of want to like give it some time. Maybe I don't know. Actually, I don't even know how it would work exactly. But like, you gotta make a decision fast,
And it's not
faster.
even the release schedule. It's more just so the filming schedule. You got to get on it. Like I miss the days of like cable and broadcast TV because then you'd guaranteed you get a season every year. And that, damn it, that's the way it should be because
Mm-hmm.
there's no, The Crown debuted in 2016. It only had 6 seasons. And we're in 2024, almost 10 years later, and it just ended. House of the Dragon, the Andor delays. And look, these delays are significant because in the past, shows that I've loved, when they've come back, I was already so like removed from it. I couldn't get back. I haven't watched Invincible yet, season 2. I forget if it's even on. I never saw Daredevil season 3 because it was so long after season 2.
The Crown for me, I really had trouble getting back into it for sure. I mean, I don't know what other shows that.
Because I feel like when it starts back up again, you have to go back and rewatch everything because
it's been so long.
Yeah, and I mean that's cool if it's like a really really great show,
Right? But
I
not
think
every show.
But not every show is that good. Like the only one that I actually did that with was Shadow and Bone, which no third season sadly, but like that's really one of the only ones where I'm like I'm gonna rewatch like the whole first season like so I can get caught up for the second, and it was really cool. I haven't done that with any other show.
I didn't even watch the second season because they said no more.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's got to be a better, I guess, system going on here when it comes to making more seasons for a show because it's not working.
I mean, yet another reason why streaming is just a mistake, right? It's just broken so many different things. Ultimately, Daredevil is just not something that I have much faith in. I haven't had any faith in. Does this do anything for me? No. How about you guys?
I'm honestly probably not even gonna watch it.
I don't know. It might depend on the trailers, I guess. I'm always the type that just always tries to give everything a shot. But not me, like you said it though. I don't trust Kevin Feige anymore. Just
it's been burned too many times at this point.
For sure. And just every decision that he's made so far, it's just been so weird. Like, why would you make Wanda the main villain in a Doctor Strange movie? Why would you never
hire people who didn't watch WandaVision to do it?
Yeah, that, and just like I don't know why you even trust. I don't know why you even trust the writer of that movie being like, I want Wanda as a villain. It's just like, why would you even say yes to that? Like if you know the comics, I don't even read the Marvel comics. I don't think I've ever read a Marvel comic before. But even I was like, you make her a Avengers villain. Like that's what you do. And then also just everything else. I mean, the way the VFX shit is going down, it's just getting annoying, and all the budget on the movies. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
It just seems to be a continuing disaster that is unraveling. I mean, they fired Majors off for obvious reasons a few weeks ago. There were some rumors that were thinking that Coleman Domingo could go in and replace him for Kang. But the idea that they're still trying to salvage Kang, it's like, no one likes Kang. Get over it. And if you're going to keep going with Kang, well, there it is. That's all she wrote.
That was the other decision. Why would you make Kang a villain in an Ant-Man movie?
And then have him lose to Ant-Man.
Yeah. Have him lose to ants is really more likely. More like it.
And remember, they thought that film was going to wow audiences. So ultimately, the Marvel Studios of 2024 is a failed institution. And so whatever they do seemingly is not going to be great. So how do I feel about the other major thing that was announced, I guess, the list of projects that are qualifying canon? Well, ultimately, I'm of two different minds about it, honestly. Um, as I mentioned at the top, fuck Kevin Feige, but also to bring a little bit more nuance into it. Um, it's kind of hard to care, quite honestly, what's canon in a universe you no longer have any investment in.
Mhm.
Oh, you changed your timeline. Oh, these shows are now included in the canon.
It's like that's part of the
Congratulations.
reason why people fell off, because everything is so complicated to keep up with now, and
Mhm.
you're just making it even more complicated now.
Mhm.
Which also, on its face, I mean, am I like, when I was a super fan of the MCU, did I consider it canon? Well, yeah, because I liked those
Yeah.
shows. I liked those characters. It didn't matter to me, but it has a different context now because we're now at a different place in the MCU where there's so much, and then you drop all of this into it, and it's just like it very clearly flies in the face of what you've been telling us for years. You're kind of in a place where there's not much direction to go off of, and so you need a distraction. A very strange move for them when they've been telling us for that the Netflix continuity was not in the main MCU continuity. And all of a sudden, now they want to act like, oh, no, all along they were part of the canon.
Mhm. And it really is like too little, too late to announce that. Just because like before Endgame came out, we were like, are Daredevil and the rest of them gonna be in the movie in some way? And then they weren't. And then now it was just this whole conversation like, is it still canon or not? And blah blah blah. And so then now you announce it, then it's like we should have had them in Endgame. Like you should have made the decision in like as soon as that movie was announced and put them in somehow. And none of us
Yeah.
wouldn't have even cared too. By the way, like if we see Daredevil standing next to fucking Iron Man, we would have. Everyone would have been cheering. Nobody would have questioned it. Everyone would just been like, "Fucking enjoy it." Like we're never gonna get this again. You know, they should have been in that portal scene right there. It was already epic the way it was. It would have been even more epic with the Marvel shows, had you just decided to do that in the first place. Also, as Agents of Shield, should have been there.
Well, to speak of the dead, right? Um, that whole different situation, or that whole element of even the black sheep of the MCU, uh, the show whose name shall not be mentioned. Um, I gotta say, um, for me,
I got mine. I got Piggy.
well, yeah, I got mine in a different way though. It's like, um, the MCU was nice while it lasted. There was a couple of good movies that are gonna stay with me forever. The Cat movies, the Guardians movies. Um, but
The Avengers.
yeah, sure, yeah, the Avengers movies as well. Um, but it's no secret to anybody who's been watching this show for a long period of time, going back 10 years now, that the part of the MCU that I've been most attached to is the poster you see behind me. 7 broadcast seasons from 2013 to 2020. The show that a lot of MCU fans love to laugh at and kick in the face. And I got to tell you, it's gotten beyond parody at this point. How much Agents of Shield fans have been made to eat shit, because we're at a point now where, okay, the Netflix shows are considered canon. Fine. The theories and the accusations that have been levied against Feige over the years of him personally having a distaste for that show only continue to gain momentum and popularity when he continues to do shit like this. Now, you could make the argument, well, because Echo came out and because they're filming Daredevil, that's why they made this announcement. And I've seen some people cling hope to, well, whenever they bring Chloe Bennett back, if they ever do that, if that's even happening, then that's when they'll announce, oh yeah, Shield was canon all along. And it's like, there's no reason for what you can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're actively making the choice to not do that. So for many years on this show, I've been Shield's #1 defender, banging the drum of how criminally underrated and pushed to the edges of society it's been. And it being the butt of the joke, it being the black sheep of the MCU, only continues into 2024, which, yeah, a lot of people out there are entertained and amused, and happy to see it. Does it make me go ballistic? Internally, sure. But I think it helps a lot that I've just stopped caring about the MCU. And to me, Shield exists as a TV show on its own thing and not really part of the MCU. Like, I don't know how people to this day can say that they're big MCU fans and it's all connected and I love all of it. And it's like, a lot of it's been really bad. And looking back at the first 10 years, many of them were pretty mediocre. So, yeah, I've really become quite bitter when it comes to the MCU for a lot of reasons. So I don't know, David, did you find it quite strange that Shield was nowhere to be mentioned on this canon timeline?
No, not really. Like you mentioned, they're making the Daredevil show and all that, so I'm pretty sure they probably just went, let's announce it now.
Keep the focus on that.
Keep the focus on that. But they had zero plans to do. They have no idea what to do with the other characters. So.
Yeah. And I guess the most important part is, who cares? So, if that's my victory, okay, I'll take it there. Whatever. If I can't win, you can't win either. And I will take solace in that. Never forget, I can be a petty bitch. And so you got to stay true to who you are, right? Anywho, without any further commentary, we're going to go ahead and close the show. As a reminder of our recent content, David and Alexis are doing Turn to Page. They're also doing reactions to Percy Jackson. The three of us just did a reaction and audio commentary on The Little Mermaid on this channel. And of course, stay tuned for the main podcast for more stories like these and more. Thank you too for being on this show, and thank you so much for indulging me on having a really long conversation on awards and the Golden Globes. I love the fact that you two have a history with them as well, because I always feel like whenever Peter is a part of these, he's always rushing me. He's like moving along, and he hates when we do all of that. So the fact that he would hate this makes me like this even more. So with that, you can listen to our show anywhere you listen to podcasts every Sunday. Stay on our spotlight for more content and more, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.